and find something you're passionate about besides Ziggy.
Hey guys, so howdy. A few minutes, a little bit late, but not too bad, I guess. I was hurrying and eating. Do I have anything in my teeth? Didn't have any pop, so I had to run down to McDonald's and grab my dollar Diet Coke real quick before we started this. And Kellie from the Unbroken podcast, I have all her links underneath in the description. I told her that this is just going to be a chill, informal vibe about her experience in Familial, being trafficked by her own family, and how she's going to, you really have to pay attention, because if it took me several hours of listening, probably a few hours for me to even understand kind of how this can even happen for 26 years. You think, oh, well, gosh, once they're at a certain age, they'd be able to get away. It's not that easy. McDicks. Oh, well, thank you, Georgia. I heard that she was over there on daisies and stuff. Now, this woman is not... Kellie doesn't know too much about Summer Wells' case. We did do like a little Zoom meeting thing where I talked to her about the basics of the case. We talked for a couple hours, and we were supposed to meet again, but I kept it's really one of those things, like Summer Wells' case is so in depth and involved that it just would take time for her to learn it all, So this is going to be more from a standpoint from her experience, and not so much like about Summer Wells, because we don't know what happened to Summer Wells. I mean, we could always... This isn't to say that, oh, this is what happened to Summer Wells, basically. This is about bringing awareness to this thing that obviously is happening way more than what we think it is. And also so we could understand how something like this can go on for so long. And she just entered backstage, so I'll go ahead and add her. Hey.
Hi.
I really give you your warning. I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and add her. You look good though. So
let me blur my background.
Yeah, and if you want to, I don't even know if I'll stay on camera, so you're welcome to turn off camera or whatever. So I was just giving a little bit.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't even know where to start. It's so involved. I was letting everybody know this isn't so much going to be about Summer Wells or anything. It's just going to be about your experience. We'll just say like that. I was about to say familial trafficking, but
that's what it's called.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's a hard word for me to say. Familial.
It's familial.
I didn't understand how this could even happen to somebody for so long. It doesn't seem, and you do get a lot of people that try to give you shit and be like, oh, you liar. But after I listened to you for several hours, I was like, oh my God, dude, this is crazy. I could just see it all falling into place. And you talk so nonchalantly about it and stuff. It's because you've lived it for so long.
Yeah. And I mean, it took a while to come out and start talking about it. I would think it was November of 2019 is the first time I spoke publicly about it. But it sucks because it's like I have to detach my emotions a lot when I talk about my story and everything. And it gets to the point where I like struggle with emotions, you know, like I'll be fighting with my husband and just be sitting there like dead face, like, you're annoying, right? But
Well, because you mean you're a little bit desensitized, I think,
little
to
bit, and some dissociation and things like that. But, it's when I tell my story and I talk about it, I have to keep myself calm so people stay calm, if that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I was afraid what to ask and stuff, but you pretty much did so well. Like, I mean, you were, because it's some of the stuff like is so hard to ask about, because it's so, and some of the things she doesn't obviously don't want to, she doesn't want to bring up names, like people's names that come up or anything like that, or places, locations. And we're just gonna kind of play it by ear and see, like, if she doesn't want to answer something, because we're gonna take questions from you guys too, because I don't even know where to start with this one. Okay, so where should we? Where do you usually start when you tell about your story?
Oh, it depends on the audience.
All right.
I was trafficked by my parents for 26 years. I don't know exactly when it started because I was so young. I believe it was like around age 2. It could have been younger though. That's just going off of like stories that I heard from like family members and people from back home. And I finally escaped when I was 26 years old. I went to a battered women's shelter with my daughters. And I think it was about a month later, I got my first restraining order and just haven't looked back since.
Your restraining order against your own parents, right? Or is it just the one?
Against my parents, yeah.
Yeah. And oh man, so you just go, you don't, how much, what, I don't, you don't have to say specifics, obviously, but like, what age do you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's blocked out because of.
Oh, yeah. Well, my first memory that it's like it kind of pointed to something going on. I was about 4, maybe 5 years old, and I had chicken pox. And I mean, if you remember back then, there were the chicken pox parties. Parents were taking pictures of the kids. And I remember my mother asking me to take off my shirt so she could take a picture of like my torso. And I was like, I'm not a porn model. I'm not taking my shirt off.
Mm-hmm.
A 4 or 5-year-old would not know what that is. So I had to have known that word. And like to be that, like, I just remember feeling like really violated that she wanted to take that picture. So that's kind
Wow.
of like the first memory where I can link that my mind started knowing something was weird.
Right. Wow. And I don't even, there's so much that this is so, I'm kind of, I don't know what you, like I said, we're going to play it by ear. So if you can't answer anything, like I bring up,
That's
whatever,
fine.
I understand. This is something basically, is this like, from what I have heard from you, this is really ingrained in your family, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know who else were victims in my family. I know 2 of my aunts had said that they were prior to my birth, but I know they told me about other people that had come forward. At that time, from what I'm told, it was handled within the family because my family is very Italian, and it was you protect the firstborn son at all costs to carry on the family name, which, I mean, the adult me now knows that's bullshit. They don't protect traffickers, but that was I mean, it's hard to figure it all out because my family's so tight-lipped. It's always, I don't want to get involved, or I don't want to talk about it, like really bizarre things. So, but I did hear once from my cousin that my family wasn't scared of my father. They were scared of my grandfather, but I don't really know what that means. He's passed away. I mean, he passed away over a decade ago, so it's not like I can just call.
Right. Hey, and hey to everybody coming in. We're just, they'll probably be, it takes about 30, 45 minutes for everybody to get coming in here. And so I think I started asking you like questions like signs and stuff, like, because I've heard, you know, something in the Summer Wells case that kind of got brought up was like these little, you know, there's signs and symbols supposedly that it, like a panda bear. Have you heard? Is there such thing?
So they talk about panda eyes,
Mhm.
and it's actually, the medical term is raccoon eyes. And what it really is blunt force trauma to the head. They say it's something much different, that it comes from like sexual assaults and things like that. But I mean, I can't find anything that proves that that's true. And I mean, I've seen pictures of myself throughout the years, and I never had anything like that. But when you do, when you get hit in the head, or a broken nose, you do get the double black eyes. But that's just like one of the many conspiracy theories out there. It is a child. I mean, it is child abuse, but it's not specific to trafficking. Like, okay, if you see that the kid's being trafficked, it can just be like physical abuse and things like that.
Right. And what about, okay, so what about the coloring of the hair? That's what I was gonna ask you. Is that really something?
Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing about trafficking is they want it like hidden in plain sight. So naturally, if they're trying to not draw attention, a child with like bright colored hair, it's gonna draw a lot of attention. Like, I was trafficked in a mall, at like amusement parks, like right out in the open in the public while people were walking around. So they want to draw as little attention to themselves as they can.
You have some supporters coming in here that know you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mary. Mary and Tracy. So that, okay, you were mentioning, so it's in everyday places. Like, this has caused you a lot of what, PTSD, I'm assuming, right? From the trauma. Like, you can't even go into like normal places without having
I'm doing a lot better now. But I don't live in the places where I was trafficked before. So that kind of helps. But I do have agoraphobia, which is like the opposite of claustrophobia. So it's like fear of big spaces and crowded places, but it's under control. I'm a lot better now than I was even 2 years ago.
So Jam says, does this happen all the time, all around us? Oh yeah. How yeah, guys, throw out questions or whatever, because it will help me. Because we talked for so long. I'm like, oh, where do I even go through this? So, or next.
It does. It's everywhere. I mean, at any given moment, you could be in the presence of a victim. Like, I have 16 apartments in the building I live in. Statistically, 4 people are being trafficked out of it. Nobody is, because I know my neighbors pretty well, but that's how common it is. And there was some clients when I was growing up that would take me out shopping, and one woman, she loved taking me to Target. So we would just walk around Target and shopping, and it's like everyone just thought, okay, mother-daughter duo, but really it was a buyer with their victim, and nobody knew anything.
That's crazy. You told me that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was weird that she wanted to play like.
Oh yeah, I had to dress up as a doll and call her auntie. It was weird. She was a bizarre one.
They want to know some things to look for. Yeah, some things that like. What do you think are some signs like of trafficking?
So it's like a broad spectrum. A lot of signs in children are going to be very similar to signs of abuse, because even though it's not just abuse, and they are being abused every day. So like from what I was told, when I reach out to like some of the girls that I babysat when I was younger and people that I knew, they said like I always wore long sleeves, like even in the winter time or in the summertime when it was really hot, like 100 degrees, I was wearing long sleeves and pants. I wore makeup at a very young age. I think like maybe 10, 11, I was wearing full face of makeup. I never really wanted to go home if I was someplace that my parents weren't. If we were, one guy, I babysat his kid, his son played on my brother's soccer team. And he was like, as soon as we would get to the games, I would automatically leave my parents and go sit with him because I felt safe with him. But trying to think of other signs you can look for. Now,
like where's the hot spots? The hot spots. That's one thing that you mentioned to me because we were talking about. I was trying to explain to you what happened with Rose Bly, Summerwell's aunt.
Yeah.
And I think it said something in her ad or in her missing ad about truck stop or something.
Yeah, and that's truck stops are used a lot. Not the I mean, I'm sure. Hold on, my husband's bringing me my dinner. Thank you. I'm sure the ones that have like food courts and things are used, but the unmanned ones that are just bathrooms and vending machines are used a lot. Traffickers actually, they buy tractor trailers and park them in the back where all the tractor trailers are, when RVs, like the big vehicles, and the victim will just pop from car to car and go back and forth into the bathroom. I was telling you about the one girl that went missing out of Washington State. I found her at a truck stop in Oregon. It was.
Yeah. You happened to spot a girl that her family was looking for her, right?
Oh, a lot of people were. Yeah. And it was, of course, I was like, holy shit. And she's like, what? I'm like, the water's warm. Because I didn't want to give it away that I had spotted her. Unfortunately, the police pulled over the wrong truck, but they sent out a thing that there was a trafficking victim found, and they dropped her off the next day. But yeah, they're huge. They use them very frequently, and they blend by having their own tractor trailers and things like that.
They just straight up like kidnap these people because you mentioned
they don't see. That's the thing is there. I mean, there are instances where it's like the snatch and grab, but it's a very small percentage. More times than not, it's a family member, a teacher, a coach. The other more common way is like a modeling job, like someone will answer an ad for a job and then it ends up being trafficking. But the snatch and grab, like at a Walmart, that happens almost never.
What about like with like older people who are like, like with Rose Bly, she was like what 18 or in early 20s or something. Is that something? Is that something like? Do they actually target people at truck stops and like try to snatch, or how would they go? Or do you think that's something like I don't know how. It's usually
my best guess, if it is trafficking, which from what I've read, I believe it's a strong possibility. She probably met someone there and then got in, and then she went with them. Like after I escaped my parents, it was the following year. A man kept coming into my work and he groomed me for months, like maybe 4 or 5 months. And I went with him to Baltimore. He said he would get me a job at his friend's club and I could live with his mom. I didn't even know I had been kidnapped till like 2 weeks after I was up in Baltimore with him. We were on our way to go somewhere. I think we were going to see my family or something. And his cousin had a house with a bunch of girls down where I used to live. And his cousin like called and he's like, yeah, we're going to see her family. And he's like, you can't do that. They won't let you leave with her. And he's like, you know, Kellie's not going anywhere, right, babe? And like tapped my thigh. And I'm like, just sat there and was listening to all these things that his cousin was saying. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been kidnapped. Like I'm being held against my will. He held on to my ID. He held on to my money. I didn't have a phone. I had to use his phone. I wasn't allowed social media, like none of that stuff.
This is somebody that was introduced to you through your father, who was
No, I have found a link from him to my father, but I didn't know that at the time. I only found that out recently. But now he was, I was stripping when I escaped because there was just like no work. So he was just a customer that kept coming into the club. And it was like he drove over 2 hours to get to my club. And I should have thought like, okay, this is a red flag because the club I was working at was in like a small town, like hole in the wall kind of place. And he went through like a major city that has like huge clubs, like really fancy clubs. I'm like, you know, but it wasn't. I just thought, okay, he's going to help me with my addiction problems. He's going to get me a place because I was homeless. He's going to get me closer to my family, to my children. And there were so many red flags that I didn't see because I didn't know what grooming was.
Yeah. So at this time, okay. So is that
Sorry,
normal?
I'm eating, but I'm starving.
Oh no, you could, if you want to turn off your camera, you can. I'm thinking about sometimes I turn it off because it's so hard to concentrate. I sit there and I see myself and it's distracting.
Ooh, I just saw lightning.
Huh?
I just saw lightning out my window.
Oh, okay. So is that a pretty common thing since I'm guessing like if you grow up you're introduced to familial trafficking at a very young age, is it really common for children who are trafficked to end up in strip clubs, like end up working at strip clubs and stuff like that? Because
I think, yeah, in a way, because it's kind of like taking your power back. I only did it because I didn't have a work history and I couldn't find a job anywhere else. And I knew someone that worked there. And as much as I hate saying it, I was really good at seducing people because I had to while I was being trafficked. So I did work as a stripper for a long time afterwards, maybe 2 years.
I mean, you didn't know anything else because, like you said, we were talking about first of all, so people know your dad had connections, right? Like higher up connections, like people.
Both my parents did, yeah.
People that are like, they knew people who were what people would say is important, right? People and stuff like that. So yeah.
Oh, guys, Tracy is a survivor too. In the chat. So just to let you guys know.
Is Tracy the one you were telling me about?
I don't remember. I know I've told you about her. She works at
the one that is like knows a lot about.
That's my sister.
Yeah.
No, this is my friend Tracy. She works at a resource center for trafficking victims and is on the streets in Houston. So she's a good resource too. I see you're answering a lot of questions.
Yeah. Thanks for that. So, okay. I wrote down something. Okay. Getting into the child trafficking. I had a question. And guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and What is? Oh, they want to know what grooming is. Somebody asked what grooming is. You probably
Okay.
have
So grooming, it's basically where they're working on you and they build up a level of trust and become like a confidant, like a best friend. They learn like one technique, they'll learn all your weaknesses and give you solutions to those weaknesses. So when I went with him, I was homeless, I was addicted to um, heroin, and I was really struggling with a lot of things. So he gave me solutions to all those problems. So that's kind of what grooming is. So, like for a child, as an example, like a 13-year-old, if they're getting bullied in school, they have strict parents, they're grounded, things like that. The traffickers that are targeting them, and they do use kids to groom on social media, like victims that they already have. They'll just say, hey, come live with me, my parents aren't strict, and then the kid runs away and ends up in the arms of a trafficker.
Wow. So we hear that. So that's real. Like where they use, like they would use you probably to try to get you to recruit friends and stuff. Did they try to do that for you? To you?
They did, but I refused to.
Well, but how old were you when you think you started to? Okay, well, you said at 4 or 5 that you were noticing like something was weird because you felt uncomfortable not or taking your picture.
I don't think the child me knew anything, but it's the adult me looking back. But when I was about 10 years old, they came into the school and did like good touch, bad touch. And they didn't they said it was okay for people if your parents gave permission. They meant doctors, but I didn't take it that way because my parents were given permission for all the people to do stuff to me. So I went down and I talked to the principal, and she brought in the police officer that was doing the little instructional thing. And I told them a lot of things that had gone on about the parties that they would bring me to and what people were doing. They went and talked to my parents and then came back, and the principal just said, your father's going to pick you up. I know now that they didn't believe me, but the child me at 10 was like, okay, so the cops arrest the bad guys. If they're not doing anything, then it's not wrong, because if it was wrong, they would do something.
Right.
I didn't fully grasp. Sorry, I had my teeth taken out. I'm not used to talking. But I didn't fully grasp at a young age that I wasn't being believed. I just was thinking, well, if it was really wrong, they would do something.
Yeah, that kind of goes with your teeth being pulled. It goes along with the question I had written down about they didn't get you like normal insurance or normal medical care and stuff like that, even though they were obviously very well capable of so because they were surrounded by people with money, right?
I mean, if it became something that was like obviously noticeable, like when I needed glasses, yeah, they got me glasses. But more times than not, when I was brought to the dentist, I was trafficked in the back of the dentist office. My father owned a lot of real estate, so he owned the building that the dentist office was in. So I would be brought back and brought to like a separate spot. But yeah, I never got like dental care. Most of the time, my medical care, my mother had much housing by proxy, so I was given and diagnosed with a lot of things that I wasn't really diagnosed with.
Wow. Yeah.
I was told I had broken my arm, and I've seen pictures of me with a cast on. Sorry, but I've had a doctor look at that elbow, and he's like, there is no history of a break there. Like, you never broke your arm, because you can still see breaks. So most of the medical care, they paid the doctors to say what they wanted. And it was like, even when it came to psychiatric care, it was all about making me like discrediting me before I even opened my mouth.
Yeah, because they would pick probably who you would talk to or specific.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I was diagnosed at a very young age with delusional bipolar disorder, whatever that is. But so if I had ever talked about anything, they would just tell people that I was having an episode. And
yeah.
the way my father explained it to me when I was old enough to understand was when I would go down in the depressive state, I would make things up in my head as a reason to be as sad as I felt like I was. So they had the medical records to prove that. So if I ever talked, they had the proof right there. And they would put me in psych wards and traffic me through the psych wards, which kind of killed two birds with one stone. It got them to make me look crazy, and they got to traffic me at the same time. So,
Wow, that's horrible that you couldn't trust anybody. No, Dee Dee, I'm glad you asked that because she doesn't believe, but she doesn't know that much about Summerwell's case to know. She doesn't, from what I've, you don't, she doesn't feel like she was trafficked. That,
no, the Summer Wells case, looking into it, I think I'm not saying that trafficking didn't happen, but it's more cult like. And I think that they were a cult or in a cult more than trafficking. But cults do traffic kids all the time. So
let's see, there's several. Are people with mental illness more likely to be trafficked than others? Or is it pretty much the board?
I mean, it depends. Like when someone's grooming someone, yeah, they'll probably target people, but it can happen to anybody. So I don't want to say like, yes, that, they're definitely targeted more. I mean, they are targeted. More like they target people that won't really be missed when they're out in public. So like people that are homeless or living on their own.
Right. See, I think that's kind of in a way that's why I think Summer Wells like would be. So I think they thought, oh, nobody will know. She's just a
Well,
kid.
the thing is, I was going to say real quick though, one way that I recently heard an uptick is they are targeting single moms on dating apps and dating websites.
Yeah,
And they'll date the mother and groom the teenage daughters, even young adult daughters. But you see, the thing is like, so my parents probably made well over $80 million off of me in the 26 years. And it's like the three biggest things sold on the black market are drugs, pews, and people. People are the only ones that you can sell over and over and over again. So in cases with trafficking, the traffickers very rarely just give the child away. They keep them under their control and continue to sell them over and over again. So it's like with Summer's parents, if they were trafficking her, they would not have let her go. She would still be with them and they would still be selling her. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense because because they can keep making money off her. That's why some think, oh, was there an accident that happened that wasn't supposed to happen, during the.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the statistics say the average child's taken into trafficking between 13 and 17, and the life expectancy is about 7 years. And sometimes it's an accidental overdose. Sometimes the client takes things too far. But I don't know. I don't like the statistics don't say it, but I think a lot of it is unaliving themselves because it's so hard to escape and stay away.
If you see me writing, it's because I take notes so I can remember to ask you things because otherwise I'll forget. Okay. If something pops up, did your parents? I don't remember if I asked you. I'm sure I did. Did your parents get you addicted to drugs very young to try to as a way to control you?
Yeah. I don't know if it was a way to control me or if it was more just to keep me compliant during sales. Like it wasn't given to me when I wasn't on a sale. if that makes sense. But when I was younger, they would use like cough suppressants, Benadryl, stuff that would not show up in a tax screen. But as I got older, it was the more hard stuff, and obviously that also was to discredit me. I was just a drug addict.
Right. I don't know if, let's see here. Let me take a couple. Yeah, Aisha is commenting on, which we will talk about the Epstein situation here later on, but she said, like Jeffrey Epstein and his girlfriend did to underage girls in Florida, he would offer money and gifts.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
That. Yeah, and I mean, even Jane's testimony at Maxwell's trial, the mother was trafficking her, but nobody picked up on it. But she told her boyfriend testified that, you know, he would ask like, how do you guys pay your bills and things like that, and she said she had a rich uncle. But that's the thing with Epstein. He wasn't, I mean, he was involved, but every single testimony is Maxwell brought girls to him. He was a buyer. She was the trafficker, and she was way worse and more psycho than he was.
Yeah. So you're okay. So that when I brought up the insurance and the dentist thing earlier, you say you had to get your teeth done or fixed or worked on, and that's kind of you said that was a product or a consequence of your being trafficked by your parents, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of things. I was never given proper dental care as a kid. There was a couple times I was hit right here and a tooth cracked, and that just like allows infections to get in. And then because of what happened so much when I was brought to the dentist, it was, I mean, it takes a lot to get me in the chair. That's why, I mean, they could have saved like 7 teeth, but I was like, I just want them all out. I don't want to keep going back to the dentist. My dentist is a friend of a friend, so I felt pretty comfortable with him, but I wouldn't let them knock me out during the procedure. They had to keep the doors open. My husband had to come in and out. Like, they had to go above and beyond.
People don't understand like the trauma that you still deal with. Because and I started talking to you before you had this procedure done, and I know I saw how nervous you were and terrified you were to go to that dentist because of being trafficked in similar, you know, in dentist offices before.
Well, it took about 7 months after my consultation. Took 7 months of canceling appointments to finally get in the chair and get it done. And I cried through the whole thing. Like, it just, with every tooth they took out, it was like, oh my God. Like, I just felt so much emotional relief.
Your Tracy said, especially Christian dating sites are targeted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how new it is. It's just new to me. Like hearing from people, they'll talk. I help a lot of mothers find their adult children. On going through ads, they reach out to me, and I'm like, I'll just look. I've seen the worst this world has to offer. Nothing's gonna, you know, you don't want to see your kid like that. And almost all of them, the guy they met on a dating site.
So let's see. So was the internet around when you were being, I mean, let's see. Is that used at all? And I mean, like
when I got older, but yeah, it wasn't used until probably well into my teenage years.
Do you think that the internet makes things, it makes...
Oh, absolutely. Social media. I know Fortnite is a huge game that kids are groomed on. And like I said, they use kids. So parents hear their child playing with another child and think, okay, it's a kid, it's a safe person, but it's not always. I mean, but Yeah, the internet just makes everything crazy.
That whole model thing that you're talking about is something is big thing they do.
Here's a crazy story. When I was still being trafficked, I went to a club with my ex-husband. We were dating at the time, and I was almost kidnapped by traffickers while I was being trafficked. They came up to me in a bathroom and said that they wanted me to be a model, that I would be great at it. I was a lot skinnier back then. But my ex-husband's sisters were models. So I knew, like, I'm 5'3". I cannot be a model. Nobody wants a short person. They want tall women. So I told him, like, okay, want to go with me because something's off about this. So they said that I had really good technique, I would be great at it, and they wanted me to go to their school. I would live at a house with a bunch of other aspiring models and all that stuff. So yeah, I was almost kidnapped by traffickers while I was being trafficked. Like, that'll tell you how common it is.
Yeah, and I know that's a whole big thing because one of my daughters, and it's Red Dead Redemption, not Fortnite, but Fortnite's a big one too. That's what they do, though. They'll make these kids think that they're, flying them out to be a model and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I had my kids was talking to a kid's parent who Caitlin plays games with on Red Dead Redemption, and he took off. He ran away, and he was being promised, to fly him out to California to, he could model for, I don't know, it was some uppity, I forget the name, but, I'm sure it was all BS. So.
Yeah, I actually had a kid in high school or in grade school. I don't know if he just wanted to be popular, but he said that his parents had a private jet and that he would take me down to Disney World for the weekend. I ended up not going. My parents wouldn't let me, but it's something as simple as that. Like, hey, we're going to take your kid on a family vacation with us, and then the kid's never seen from again. But that's what the kidnapping part looks like. It's very, like I said, it's very rarely where they just snatch you on the street.
Yeah.
But
your parents didn't let you do it unless it was them benefiting, huh?
Like, well, they had placed me at a house with other traffickers when they were being investigated, and it was just kind of to get me out of sight. And they do that. They'll move kids around to other people's houses when the heat's on them. I don't know how common that is. It was common in our little circle or ring or whatever you want to call it.
I'm thinking of stories that you told me. I'm writing something down about something similar. You're just talking about the police, how they, like, you were just, they didn't even realize you were his daughter. That he had any daughter.
Michelle's question. They won't take the child like forever to pay off a debt like that. It would be more, okay, it'll be like one specific time. So they would just take the child, do what they want to the child, and then return the child.
But does anybody ever sell children into, I mean, I would think that people.
Through illegal adoptions, yeah. But I know I had 3 kids that were taken right from the time they were born, and they were illegally adopted out into either back into the ring or to prominent people. But
so these are obviously babies had by your abusers.
By victims, yeah. And it's called breeding is the term. So they'll basically have a victim have a child. They'll allow the victim to get pregnant, carry to term, have the child, and then they'll just put it right back in to the ring.
Pregnant, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I imagine that's a whole another thing too. Anyways, some
people get off on it, as sick as that is.
Yeah. I put all her links in the description. So yeah, Amber, if one of the mods wants to drop, like, especially her podcast link, she has a link tree that I put in the
Yeah, my
description.
link tree has all my social media.
Yeah. So I don't think our kids, even though young adults, realize how easy these manipulations can happen. Their techniques are more sinister and hard to detect. No one is asking for help finding a lost puppy anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that's so scary is traffickers have evolved with technology, but the laws have. So they know that everything's video now, so that's why they're grooming, women and children to groom people online because there's videos.
That is so important for people. I'm really glad that you brought the whole dating site thing, because that is so important for people to know about that. If like somebody like me who might start dating, I don't know, sometime. Who have children at home, you have to be really careful. And
that's the thing with the dating websites. They're going after young adults. Their daughters are young adults. So a lot of people think, okay, well, once my kid's a certain age, they're safe. And they're really not.
What do you, yeah, because didn't you say actually that they traffic? Well, you said there's also, you called it breeding, or what's the name of it called?
Yeah, breeding. I didn't know how common it was until I started talking with other survivors that had similar stories to me. And that's what they would do, is they would just take the babies right when they were born. I'm going to turn my headphones off.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because didn't you say that the actual age, is there an average, like, for children to be trafficked?
Yeah, the average is between 13 and 17, but it happens younger. Can you take the bowl too? It happens younger, it happens older. I know of a victim that's still in it, that's in her 70s, and she just doesn't want to get out of it. Can I smoke on camera? I know you can on TikTok.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I mean, as far I don't care. I mean, you might not. I don't care.
TikTok will be lived out if you smoke.
I know that. I think YouTube's trying to start something like that.
Like I go like this on live. Blow smoke out, but you can't see the cigarette. But it's funny because I do telehealth with my therapist, and I'm always like this, and he's like, "You're allowed to smoke on camera with me." I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, I'm not on TikTok." It might get really loud. I got a storm rolling in. It looks pretty bad. You're right.
No, somebody emailed me and said, I was surprised that your guest didn't know the cause of panda eyes in children. It is extremely disturbing, so be aware when you research it. And then they sent me a link about panda eyes. I'm sure there's all kinds of different stories about panda eyes, guys. I was talking about...
The term is raccoon eyes, and you can look that up. That's the medical term, is raccoon eyes. And it's not from sodomy. It's from blunt force trauma to the head or head injuries. There are rumors and conspiracy theories going around about panda eyes, but they are not true. Anti-trafficking organizations have put out statements. Police departments have all put out statements that it is just that, a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
It's something we fight every day, is constantly dealing with these conspiracy theories, and there's always articles to back it up, but they're blog accounts or opinion pieces. And that's the problem with the internet, is you can find information about anything, and panda eyes is not true. It not in the way that they're portraying it. It's called raccoon eyes because both eyes go black like this, and it's from blunt force trauma to the head or head injuries and things like that. Like a cranial fracture will do it, and also broken noses gives you the raccoon.
I thought panda was just like some kind of symbol, like the
Panda eyes. I got glasses on, but it's like black eyes right here, and they say that it's a sign of a child being trafficked and sodomized and tortured and things like that. But it's not. It's from head injuries, not from the sexual assaults themselves.
From just being abused and the head injuries from just being abused in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, my parents, they haven't been. I'm past the statute of limitations, so I can't bring criminal charges against them.
But you do have a protective order. They're not allowed to come near you.
Yeah, I do have protective orders.
Yeah, because they still try to this day, right? Like get a hold of you.
Oh yeah.
It's scary.
Like, recently is like 3 days ago. But they don't know where I live, and they don't come here. They'll do it in like weird ways. They stole my debit card number, and like my bank said it was really bizarre because I don't have money on that debit card at the time, and they kept on using it, which is really weird. Usually they will test it out, and when the sale or whatever goes through, like if they're shopping at like a Walmart, they'll just do small amounts that you won't notice. But mine, after continuously being declined, they kept on using it. And then when I found out the location, I knew who it was. But it's just to let me know that they still are thinking about me.
Here's I'll get back to you, my ranch, on that. What is some of the most common misinformation? Oh my gosh, you could probably go on and on about this one.
All right, so the zip ties, the perfume, the marks on your car, the money left under your windshield, notes left under your windshield, flowers, all of that is, I mean, it happens. From what I have found out, the money and things left under your windshield wiper is sorry, my dog keeps jumping on the doorknob. I think my husband's coming in. That's a carjacking tactic. Their thought is you'll see money and you'll get out of your car and grab it real quick, and they'll jump in your car and take off. It's not a trafficking tactic. Wayfair, Pizzagate, all that stuff's bullshit and not true. The creepy guys at Walmart that's not a common trafficking tactic. Like grooming is the biggest way that they take people.
Yeah, I would think also I would think that, and using already I would think the girls already in it. I would think that would be like the biggest way to get, have them friend people.
I did an interview with, but we're not friends anymore, but we were friends at the time, and she was told to go up to women and try to groom them.
Yeah, didn't she?
She talks about it in one of our episodes, the interview with Jill.
I was watching that Maxwell. What'd you say? Ghislaine or whatever, Maxwell. And you just said something, that whole documentary that is on Netflix about her.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
Did you know she would go to school? Like she was hanging out at schools and befriending college or high school girls?
Dude, she was fucking psycho. She was psycho. The things she did to me, she was worse than he was.
So I guess it's okay to say that you were one of their victims. We've been trying to decide if we were going to talk about it or not, or she was been trying to decide because
yeah, well, when I first, I found out that Epstein is my cousin on my mother's side. Not my first cousin. I think he's like a second or third cousin. But when I first started talking about it, I turned into an Epstein victim, and I hated that. I don't identify as who did things to me. So that's why I don't really talk about my time with them. I don't mind it, but I don't like to focus on it because it's a very small part of my story. I don't know if they are doing it now. I don't have contact with them. I live thousands of miles away from them, so they could be, they could not be. I really don't know. And I don't have a way of finding out. It's not like I can just call the cops and say, hey, these people trafficked me, investigate them. That's not how it works.
Yeah. And my ranch where you said, Ziggy, is there facts Marlena was looking to purchase? I don't know. There is rumors about this. This is a friend of.
Which that's a common thing. Is
really?
I mean, with the breeding and everything, those kids, there's no record of my kids ever being born. And I'm sure the birth certificates that they have now, which somebody within the ring helped to create, doesn't even have my name on it. It has the parents that they're living with now. The ones that were put back in the ring probably still don't have one. But they will buy multiple, like I have multiple birth certificates that my parents had. I had multiple IDs, multiple names. So it could be.
Well, this is somebody tied to, so Summer Wells' mom, somebody who was directly tied to Summer Wells' mom and a good friend, had been staying up over at their house, at Summer Wells' house, for several days. There's rumor, or several weeks right before Summer went missing. There's rumors that she was caught with a bunch of birth certificates and that she's involved in trying, kind of being a middleman, finding people who.
See, yeah. I mean, and it is possible. But it's just from the other things that I've seen about the case, it sounds more like a cult than it does trafficking.
I can agree with that, but I can definitely see the cult. I think it could be a combination of both and a little.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was telling you all about cults, you were like, "Oh my god, oh my god." But it's
I know. I tried to watch that Devil in Ohio thing, and that's a documentary. She said that. It's not really.
It's not a documentary. It's
right. I thought it was, and I'm more of like a true story type thing, and it just seems
it's a good show. It's creepy as shit, but it just kind of gives you an idea of how cults work. But it's like some people think everything is trafficking, and that's like one of the things. Like they have. Child pornography rings, child trafficking rings, and cults. Some cults do trafficking, some cults don't. Like the FLDS is the hugest, like the biggest labor trafficking organization in the United States. They have companies that so I think I told you about the Amish and the FLDS. They kind of have the same thing where you help your community members. But with the Amish, they don't have companies and send the kids out working with the companies. It's just like helping your neighbor. It's kind of a gray line of trafficking. But with the FLDS, they actually have construction companies, and I think Walmart, Amazon, and all those big places, they will hire those companies because they know they have to pay less in labor costs because it's they're labor trafficking.
Yeah.
Somebody's claimed that Red Barrel was a sign. I've never heard of anything. See, the thing is, when, like I said, they fly under the radar without people knowing that it's happening. So putting out signs and stuff like that, that's not very common unless it's an ad. And with ads that like you would see online, you can see them on, like, they're huge on Instagram. That's where I find most of them. They use emojis, and like each emoji, it means something different. So like a cherry indicates a virgin or a minor being trafficked, and it'll have it like in the title of the ad. And then certain,
maybe that's something you pointed out too, because Rose Bly had a cherry tattoo. Do they tattoo people?
I mean, yeah, they do brand them. From what I know, someone that owns an organization, it's called Soul Survivor Inc. It's an amazing organization. They're based in Arizona, but they help survivors all over the United States to have their branding tattoos taken off or covered up.
The more common brands are crowns, UPC symbols, names, things like that. I don't know if the cherry is put onto a child. I highly doubt they do that. Because I mean, a kid having a tattoo is something pretty obvious, but it's possible. But
well, I mean, I was just wondering if that's something done on like older like that's not underage. Like, because
it could be what they decided to, but it doesn't always mean what the emojis mean.
And Rose about the somewhere like it's just like an opinion what she said. I mean, it's just an opinion. Like,
well, it's like trafficking rings. They are everywhere, but like the organized side of it, you see more in hot flashes. You see more in like urban areas, things that are kind of remote and like in the woods where your neighbor's like 5 miles away. That's more characteristics of a cult. But it doesn't mean there wasn't trafficking. So I was not part of a cult. My parents were part of a sex trafficking ring, but there are cults that do sex trafficking. Like, if that makes sense. I can't think of how to word it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's just what you said, how he all of a sudden became very religious after she went missing, talked about sacrificing, and that's cult stuff, not
and see you, or at least I'll see her in the resurrection.
Yeah.
And
the Seventh-day Adventists it is labeled as a cult.
Yeah. You said that. I haven't had a chance to really look into that, but
yeah, I didn't know until I looked it up. But I know a lot about cults. My sister is a survivor of one, so I get all my knowledge from her. I think she's in here. I don't know though.
Oh, okay. So we talked about this earlier. So Mama T said, yes, I've wondered if those haircuts and colors of Summer and Allison's nieces mean something. We talked about that earlier about hair coloring.
Yeah, it could, but that's not a characteristic of what they do to kids that are trafficked. Because, like, I mean, I still went to school. I had a 4.5 GPA when I graduated high school. I did miss school, but I had a medical excuse too. But a lot of the times when it's familial trafficking, like within the family, they still go out in public and they go and do all the things. They don't want to draw attention. So I've never heard that. And I work with a lot of organizations. But I do know that colors is a trigger for certain things in cults. So it's possible.
Oh yeah,
you were talking about. But I mean, my daughters, I'm a licensed cosmetologist. I mean, they had purple and pink hair when they were really young. It was just because I wanted to do it, so.
What would they do? They would, or wait, I don't know if this might be something you don't want to talk about though, because I can't remember. Don't they use like conditioning, like, or what is it, where they like trick you, that whole, what is it called? Don't they use like weird conditioning, hypnosis, stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll do, and that's a more cult thing. It's for basically programming the child. I've heard from survivors that they'll use colors, numbers, patterns. Essentially, they purposely give the child dissociative identity disorder and have programmed alters within their system to do certain things that they want them to do.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
I know one person said like they would color like a green circle and walk past them and just go like that. And once they see it, it brings the programmed alter forward.
Yeah, the empty ultra.
That's a whole huge thing to explain. I mean, I'm kind of making it as, I mean, literally it could be hours going through all of the mind control. Anyone that wants to look it up, look up the Monarch programming. That's what they do. It gives a lot of good info about the programming of cult members. They can essentially get them to do whatever they want. Like you'll see some celebrities, like Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, which is a huge cult. And you'll see times where the programming glitches, is that's what I call it. And when he acts all crazy, or like Kanye West, or Ye, I think his name is now, like he'll break through programming a lot and he'll just start talking about all of this stuff. And people think, oh, they're crazy, but it's just breaking through the programming. But again, that's a whole other thing. It's not really my expertise. Yeah.
It's definitely interesting for sure to think that. I mean, I could see how it could work. I mean, if dissociative identity disorder is a real thing, like a lot of people have different opinions on it. I've seen it myself, so I believe it is, because I've seen it.
It's constantly evolving in the psychiatric world, I guess, like with psychiatrists. Like before they would call it splitting when a new personality would come out, or a new alter. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. It's just something that's really misunderstood, and it's easy to fake. So I think some people, there's a lot of people that fake it. But it is a very real disorder, and it's just from you have to have gone through constant, consistent trauma before age 10. And it's kind of like when you get like a new quirk in your personality, it creates like a whole separate person in the person's mind.
Yeah, I could totally see how that could happen. I mean, it's just, we only use a certain percentage of our brain as it is. Like,
like I think we use like 3%, something like that. And it's like, my son has autism, and I know he uses more than his brain than I do. And I think that's, I really do. And I think that's a characteristic of autism, but that's just like a personal opinion. But I mean, he had me download a game, and it had like arrows, and he was like, I can't play this because it defies the laws of physics. I'm like, you're fucking 8. What do you think about, girl? So actually, there is a lot that has come out about Julie or Julia, I can't remember. She's not Madeline McCann. It's looking like I saw someone was looking into somebody that is kind of like her liaison, some psychic that people are kind of discrediting everything. But the first time I looked at her, I'm like, nope, not her. She doesn't have the same eye thing. And I mean, I'm sure the girl's going through stuff, but the family did put out a statement that she's just trying to be famous. And the more that comes out, I did not know my automatic air freshener was in here.
I kind of heard that.
I heard the more that's coming out, it's looking like she's just doing it for clout, and
probably to do it. I haven't seen any. I've heard a story about this girl claiming she's Madeline McCann or something, but I haven't really had time to check it out. It does interest me though.
Yeah. The Seventh-day Adventists are not part of Mormon. They're closer to Jehovah's Witness from what I've read. They are Christians. Both Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists are Christians. But they don't have similar beliefs to the Mormons. The Mormons go off the Book of Mormon and all that crazy crap.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the Seventh-day, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking for some reason when you said that the Jehovah's Witness are kind of similar to, or SDA.
Jehovah's Witnesses is a cult too.
Yeah, my ex, his family, I mean, I have family as Jehovah's Witness and they're not allowed to communicate with any of us. Now, my ex, his parents were Jehovah's Witness.
Well, that's a huge characteristic of a cult, is the shunning. Like
Yeah.
once you leave the church, people aren't allowed to talk to you and things like that. You're not allowed to have like that much contact with the outside world. Those are all characteristics of
Right.
cults.
And some churches are more cult like more culty than the other, because I've known some really good. I mean, my ex's mom is one of the best people I've probably ever met, and she's Jehovah's Witness. So, and
Well,
she's
that's the thing is with a lot of them, there's cults within the religion, so it's not like every member is a cult member. If anyone's heard of Teal Swan, she's like a spiritual healer. Her inner circle is classified as a cult, but not every member that goes to her retreats or follows her is a cult member. They did a thing. Oh, I can't remember the name. It's on Hulu, a docu series that they did about her. And she wanted it done to prove she wasn't a cult, and they proved that she was. It was hysterical. Moon, Utah.
That's funny. I just highlighted this because I remember you mentioning something about that's her. You're like, that's her name, Summer Moon Utah Wells. I remember you saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what why I brought up to you to watch The Devil in Ohio, because in the show one of the detectives is investigating and finds the compound in the middle of nowhere. So I mean, it is possible that she's at one of those compounds, similar to like Waco. What were some, like the one with Warren Jeffs and FLDS? Yes. So it is possible that she's at a place like that.
Do they really name them? Do they give them like when they're? Do they actually name children, like have certain names for them? Like, let's say if for in an instance, well, I guess that'd be going into the whole cult thing though.
Yeah.
Yes, and that might be a question for your friend or your sister, because
I don't know, Lynn, are you in here?
It's totally fine. If not, I'm just
her name's Blue Dolphin if you see her.
I'm just wondering, if you've heard anything about something like this going on pre-promise to a cult leader.
That's what happened with Warren Jeffs and the FLDS.
Right. I think you were telling me some stuff. You were telling me something like certain babies would be promised to
the prophet, and it was an honor for him. Like the FLDS and the Mormons. I just actually posted an episode last week of someone that was a victim of a cult within the Mormon church. But it's like, it's an honor for them. And it's like the Holy Spirit comes to them and tells them they're the prophet and tells them this person's going to be your wife. Okay, dude, you just came up with that idea in your head. The Holy Spirit was not talking
to you. I can say I'm a prophet and be like, you guys all need to worship me right now.
Yeah, but
I'm the second coming of Jesus.
I mean, you can watch Under the Banner of Heaven. It's a series, but it's based on a true story. And reading the story, the real story, they got it pretty close to what happened. And that was Mormons that turned fundamentalist. So it's like the Mormon church has kind of evolved from the original Book of Mormon. And then the fundamentalists, they believe it word for word, kind of like evangelists believe the Bible word for word, but the other Christian denominations don't. They think there's a lot of, like I'm Catholic, and we believe that there's a lot of symbolism and stuff. So I remember Don saying an angel came to him and told him what?
Told him in a dream what happened to, what was it? He said that, an angel told him in a dream that she was, he was like, he always knew something was going to happen to Summer, is what he would say. I always knew something bad was going to happen.
It's like watching that one clip that we watched together when we were on the Zoom together. Uh-huh. It's like he's got all his ducks in a row about, okay, they went down here and this person, like someone was waiting here. Like he's got all his ducks in a row. And it's like right now, like if I made an accusation against you, you know, you're not going to have every single detail. Like that's a huge thing that someone's lying when they have an answer for everything already planned out. And I mean, he's like, she was in here and that refrigerator. I can't get over that fucking refrigerator.
No, that's so funny.
Like she plays in the refrigerator. Whose child plays in a refrigerator? Like, why are you like, but that's the thing is like, he was pointing to all these places and it's just, he has all his ducks in a fucking row. Two perfectly.
Yeah. And that's why he wouldn't let his wife talk for, I mean, you probably wouldn't know this, but his Candace hasn't talked nearly as much as him because Dawn wouldn't let her for the longest time. It was like he was afraid she was gonna, you know, because she's kind of like a teenager in her mind, and I think Don thinks he's much smarter and better at manipulation, which is probably true. So that's probably why he talks the most.
Yeah, that's how my father was. I mean, both my parents were diagnosed with psychopathy, but they are master manipulators. Like there were times where I would, even now as an adult, I was so gaslit and manipulated and so much like mind control that like talking with my therapist, I'm like, I mean, I have this memory, but I don't know if it's a real memory. Like the broken arm, for instance, I can picture exactly how it happened perfectly, but it was because they told me so much that it happened. And I lived in the house, so I could piece the memories together, but it didn't actually happen.
Right.
Do you think
how did it even get to a point where your parents got diagnosed? Usually people like that, they don't
family therapy. We were forced to go to family therapy, and it was to prove I was crazy. My dad, he went to prove that he wasn't crazy, and he was given I think it's like MMSP test. I can't remember. It's a psychological test. Casey Anthony took it. They talked about it in her documentary, and he came back as a psychopath. And if you read the symptoms, do you think some families are brainwashed into thinking it's to donate their child to the prophet? Yeah, absolutely. There is a documentary on Netflix. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but one of the Warren Jeffs phrases was be sweet and obey. And so it's something similar to that. And that's where they talked about, like, it was an honor for them to choose your child to be married to the prophet. And they were married at like 12, 13, sometimes younger.
Yep.
Did he say that like after she went missing or before she went missing?
After. We don't know him saying that beforehand. We don't, but he showed us a picture, like, and he was saying it. Well, there's they have so many pictures on Facebook, but there's this one picture of him holding Summer that was taken, and he's like, in that picture, I was crying, I was holding her, and I knew in that moment this is going to be the last time I ever hold her.
Yeah.
How would you know that's going to, like, that's what he was saying, that he knew that was going to be the last time that he held his daughter, so he wanted to get a picture of it. Well, obviously, then if you knew that was the last time, he tried to act like, oh, angels are telling him this stuff.
Yeah. He sounds like somebody that likes to hear his own voice.
Sounds like somebody that would get involved in a cult to me, that would be easily brainwashed. He always has to also talk about how Saturday is the real Sabbath. Saturday is the real Sabbath.
Yeah. So, is Missing child code for traffic. Do not search. What do you mean by that? Team Rose put it up. I'm in the chat on my phone, but
Yeah, if you see anything you want to answer, because I'm way behind. I'm just, hey, Carrie Bowberry. I like that name.
Wouldn't it? Yeah, that's the one I was just reading. Wouldn't it have benefited the world? So yeah, and that's what I was saying is, so I don't know the price for illegal adoptions, but I think it's between like 30 and 120,000, like 30,000 and 120,000. So it's like they could have sold her once, but they would have made more money to continue trafficking her instead of just like a one-off sale.
Yeah.
And with the location of their house, I mean, it's the perfect place to traffic somebody because it's just so away from everything else. Nobody would hear screams or anything like that. So
they do. Is it true? Do they use like, oh gosh, this is horrible to even picture or anything, but it's something that's came up a lot in the Summer Wells case. That's why I'm asking. Do they use like buildings, like old barns and stuff like that?
Sometimes, yeah, but it's usually like from what I've heard from organizations and things like that, if it's an old barn, somebody within the ring owns it. Like they don't just walk into an abandoned building and do it. It does happen, but it's more often in like adults.
Right. No, this is in this instance with Summer Wells, it's Dawn and Candace, they have their property is huge and there's several like old barns and stuff on the property. And some people are stuck on the fact that when Dawn first got home the night that Summer went missing, he went down to one of the old barns, very first thing. So some people just think it's weird that there was something with one of the barns going on in one of them.
I mean, it's possible. But like I said, I don't know enough about the case to really say definitively that, yeah, there was something going on, but it is possible. They use stuff like that.
Yeah. Something with the shed.
With a birth certificate. Barns and stuff can also be used for like ritual abuse too.
Right.
With a birth certificate, child could have a total different life. Yeah.
It was the shed that sit close to the road. See, I don't know what shed people are talking about. See, I don't know if people are calling the shed that house that Dawn used to live in that's on the property that's like torn down, that there's rumors about supposedly Dawn selling prostitution or sex acts out of that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, didn't the neighbor say something about a sign about the sister?
Yeah, I don't know though. Like when you mentioned though that you feel like she was trafficked because, well, the truck stop thing. I think her vehicle was found near a truck stop or something.
Yeah,
it had something to do with truck stops. But one of the neighbors that I talked to named Fred Hill, he said he could have sworn that Rose Bly, which would have been Summer Wells' aunt who went missing also, he swears that he knew Rose Bly and she was a part of that whole prostitution ring thing. Well, and if she was, she could have been being trafficked, and it could go along with what we were saying and why.
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me, from what he had said, because I watched that video when you talked to him and the truck stop thing. I mean, I think it's a very strong possibility that she was taken into trafficking, and that doesn't mean she's still alive. And unfortunately, like I said, the life expectancy is just 7 years for victims. But that's what it sounds like to me with the aunt, was that she was being trafficked. But it doesn't mean that it's not a cult, because cults do traffic kids and people.
Yeah, you're the. I don't know why I didn't think about the possibility of her being in traffic. That would make sense, and it would go along with what Fred Hill said about because when he said that, I just felt like he had to have been mistaken somehow. He got her confused because it just. But then I started thinking maybe she was trafficked. I mean, it would make look at her family. Look at Candace Bly. I mean, the whole family is messed up, and had either been essayed as a child, or they've been around it their whole lives. So yeah, I mean, maybe Rose did become a victim.
I mean, that's
still possible.
Yeah, it is a strong possibility. But it's also, I mean, they could have left the car at a truck stop thinking that someone would think she was just kidnapped. I mean, it could just have been a complete cover up too.
Yeah, could have, would have, whatever. It could be a lot of things, but I never really thought about the trafficking thing. And it would make sense. Like, it was odd when Fred, it kind of just came out of nowhere when he said, like, Rose was involved in that. Because when he talked about this prostitution that Dawn was selling out of this, it sounded so crazy and stuff, because it was like he put up some kind of sign. He swore that there was a sign and stuff, and it sounded so crazy, way too crazy for it to be real. Then he mentions that Rose Bly was in on it too, and I'm like, what? And I was like, no, that's not possible. But then when you thought about when the trafficking thing came into play, or when I thought about that, I'm like, wow, maybe is it possible? We'd have to do a timeline and figure out. She went missing in 2009, so of course it would have had to been when she was probably. Most of them get trafficked underage. That's probably when they first get into it.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen to anyone at any age. That's just the 13 to 17 is the average. That was put out by Polaris Project. So they go off, when they have their statistics, they go off the calls that come into the human trafficking hotline. Oh, excuse me. And it doesn't, like when you say trafficking, it's not always sex trafficking. It could be labor trafficking too. And I believe organ harvesting falls under trafficking too. And that's not like you get kidnapped and wake up in a tub full of ice. It's like, if you don't qualify to go on the donor list, you pay someone that you're not allowed to pay for kidneys. Just like with adoptions, you're not allowed to pay for adoptions. Like, you're not allowed to pay the mother, but with illegal adoptions, they do. And there are some shady adoption agencies that, a lot of times felons won't qualify to adopt, so they'll go to an illegal one and pay. So.
Yeah, but but people can arrange like legal adoptions themselves, though, couldn't they?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just you're not allowed to pay the mother for the child. Right. So if someone does pay money to the mother, then that's where it becomes illegal.
Yeah. Yeah, they can pay for your doctor's visits and stuff like that. There's a way
gifts, but they can't hand you cash. Yeah.
What about when Jody Sue wanted people to meet? That's what I'm saying. That's another thing. Like, she doesn't know too much about. I don't think we got into Jody Sue too much. It's a neighbor of Summer Wells, but she's highly suspect, and she talked about. She talked about these Klan meetings in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, that sounds like a cult.
Yeah, we thought she was talking about like KKK, but but maybe I don't know.
And usually, like, meetings in the woods is like a ritual thing. It could be like an animal sacrifice, it could be a human sacrifice.
Right. And we looked into, that's another thing. It's just something to note. Summer went missing June 15th. Summer
Right before the summer solstice, which is a blood ritual.
And so we also had that kid.
But the thing is, like, I was thinking about that. I don't think they would have reported her missing. Like, was it the parents that reported her or somebody else?
Yeah, the parents did.
Yeah, I don't think if they sacrificed her. I mean, I could be wrong, but I would think if they sacrificed her, they would not report her missing because that would draw too much attention. I don't know.
Yeah. What's SRA? Also, it was on Summer Souls. What's SRA?
Satanic ritual abuse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because and then the next day after Summer went missing, we've been looking into this guy that was found dead, who is also tied to the same people surrounding Summer Wells case. Anyways, it was on June 16th. So the next day after, I'm like, could that? But they don't do like soccer. He was found on June 16th. They wouldn't do something like that before actual date. He wouldn't, right? I mean, rituals are usually done like I would say.
Yeah, it's
on the day of the summer equinox.
That's kind of out of my realm of expertise. I know my sister said she's in here. Oh my god, my friend is my friend just called and I didn't answer, and she's sending me nasty texts because she's so mature. But
that's yes, I do kind of. Or of this. Oh, you mean the whole thing? I kind of wonder if 423 Chase and all of them are part.
I mean, I don't know 423 Chase. But yeah, they do that. If they're like a lot of the things like Wayfair, Pizzagate, all of that stuff was put out by traffickers to get people to not really know what trafficking is. So cults will do that too. Well, they'll put out things and talk trash about people and yada, yada, yada to get people off the scent of it being a cult.
Yeah. It walked on it.
An outside setting felt very strange. Yeah. I mean, and that could just be a fire pit. I had one. But yeah, the benches with something in the middle, that's something that could be a part of ritual abuse.
I'm trying to think what Amber J is talking about specifically because it kind of rings a bell. But yeah, something that I mean, yeah, there's with these rituals, they have certain ways they set stuff up and stuff, I guess. Killing someone is how to get into some of these cults. Yeah, supposedly, and I guess it's an honor to offer up your baby too, or something. I don't know. Weird stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay. Luminous says CPS was coming the day after, so they had to.
They had to say she was missing. Okay. Yeah.
Some people think CPS was a reason why they had to get rid of.
Well, and that's the same thing. I mean, look at Casey Anthony. Kaylee was missing for like a month and a half before she was actually reported. So yeah, that could be true.
And the guy they found, did someone kill him? I don't know. They said it didn't look like foul play, so
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, that's something different. You probably don't know.
Can you put up Team Rose's comment about CPS? I can't really read it on my phone.
Yeah. CPS is also part of the trafficking.
So the thing about CPS as a whole is not trafficking children. But what the traffickers do is place people within CPS. So there's bad aid, like investigators, supervisors that are part of trafficking rings, but the agency itself is not trafficking. So for like example, after I escaped, my parents called in between September of 09 to the end of September of 09 to the beginning of March of 2010, over 30 reports of child abuse to try and get my kids taken from me. But they didn't have a good, like, they never got a good CPS worker that worked with the ring. Had they gotten one, they would make up some excuse to take the child away from the trafficking victim and give them to their traffickers, which are their parents. So it's touch and go with CPS. I mean, I could have CPS out tomorrow and have a terrible experience, and my neighbor next door that has kids could have the same exact worker and have a great experience. But it's not the agency itself, it's the workers. God, the lightning is reflecting off my desk. It's so weird.
And if anytime you have to go, I need to go.
Oh, I'm fine. I have to go to the bathroom, but I can hold it for a few more minutes.
Yeah, I have to. If you want to go, I was just going to ask you if I could go to the bathroom, and or if you need to go, and I'll wait.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people, Rose, that have, or Team Rose, that have terrible experiences with CPS. I think a lot of the problem is a lot of people, they go to school for social work because they want to help with like LGBTQ people or survivors, and there's just not enough jobs. So then they end up at CPS, which is overworked, understaffed. So yeah, a lot of people have terrible experiences. I've had terrible experiences. Whose father was a Freemason? Summers? Storm. See, Jim, that's weird that they would fly to other states. I don't understand why they would do that. That seems kind of weird. But the thing is, with mental health facilities, a lot of them are for profit, and sometimes certain judges will have like stocks or whatever, so they get more money if they send them to certain facilities that are for profit. So that could be why.
She's exposing her. Sorry, I had to.
Oh yeah,
go to the bathroom. Go for it. I hurried and it didn't happen when you were talking. I was like,
yeah. Yeah. Oh, Casey Anthony's. I've heard that he's a Freemason. I haven't really seen it. Yeah, I'm gonna not talk about Megan Walsh. I have a very different opinion of what she's doing, but I'm gonna keep that to myself.
I haven't at all seen this situation. I don't know.
I'm friends with her on TikTok, but I don't believe a lot of the things that she's saying. A lot of the things that she's saying can be proven not to be true.
Is she speaking out against her dad?
Yeah. She's speaking out against her dad about CPS, missing and exploited children, a whole bunch of stuff. But some of the stuff, like she says her kids were taken without due process, but they had a warrant and she went in front of a judge. That's due process. So I don't know why she would lie about that part. And it could just be miseducation. I mean, I don't know. She's a hot mess. I try to follow along, but I can't.
Oh, Blue Dolphin, I'm sorry. Is that, do you know?
Oh yeah, there's my sister.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Dang it. I forgot about the subscribers only thing. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn and use the little ladies room.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure it out. Okay.
Because I have been through the same stuff through this 33-degree Freemason stuff. Well, who was it? I was talking to the other day. I was talking to somebody and they were saying that Andy Bernard Sr., his name would be George Andrew Bernard, whatever, is a Freemason. Well, if that were true, then wouldn't Andy be a Freemason? Because aren't you born into it? JLR has been talking to Megan. She has videos on his channel. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions like for her, I do have, let's see if she'll be willing to talk about. There is some, she's pretty desensitized to a lot of it, so that's why she's able to talk about some stuff. Like,
you talking about me?
Yeah, because I wrote something down that it's a sensitive topic, but I thought maybe
She's still in here. Oh, okay. My dog. Come here, girl. Hold on. Come on. Hey, baby.
Okay, you're not born into it. Okay, well then that would make sense because
Stop. I know there's a thunderstorm.
I had written down. Are you able to? Well, didn't they? Are you able to talk about the forced abortions or?
Yeah, that's fine. So the first time I remember, I was. Go ahead, go see daddy. I was 12, I think, like 12, 13, and I was. Hold on, my husband's trying to get my dog out of here.
Good.
Better if you're still.
Or she jumped down. She's very attached to mommy.
Yeah, I think she had a new puppy.
Yeah, she's like 7, 8 months old. A cat's not in, but that's fine. I don't care about the cats. Thank you. Sure.
Oh, is she a border collie?
No, she's Australian Shepherd. She's my service dog, so I kind of keep her away when I talk about certain things so she doesn't alert me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I was brought to the local Planned Parenthood, and what I was told was I had endometriosis and that the treatment was that they would take something and scrape the excess lining of the uterus off. And
this is what was the doctors telling you this too?
And my parents.
So these are people that
at Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is huge with trafficking.
Really?
They will give abortions to minors knowing that they're trafficking victims and not report it. But I was told that's what they were doing and that's what the vacuum was for. And when I finally got old enough to have a pap smear, I asked the doctor, like, are you going to get the vacuum? And like his face was like, what are you talking about? So I explained how my pap smears were before, and that's how I found out that they were actually abortions. I didn't even know it.
Wow. Yeah, thanks.
My Australian Shepherd is not as smart as she should be. She chews electrical wires and then barks at them for zapping her and then continues to chew on them. She's fun.
Yeah, Blue Dolphin, that's crazy. Would love to hear your story sometime, maybe if you're ever able to, Because you have a lot of info on cults, and I do believe, I don't know, I just really strongly believe with Summer that there's something religious or something.
Yeah. Amber and Jam, she looks a lot like a border collie, but the Australian Shepherds have tricolors, and she has like brown here and in her ear. So that's how you can tell the difference between a border collie and an Australian Shepherd. Border collies are generally 2 colors, and Australian Shepherds are 3. I didn't know that. I just found it out. Yeah, she's a silly girl. Yeah, I know. I'd love for my sister to come on, but she never comes on.
Here's another kind of sensitive question, kind of. Did they force you to have any like babies and then they keep them?
Yeah, I had 3 kids that were taken from me.
Oh my gosh.
That I remember anyways. That wasn't my parents. That was at the other house that they had me at. I think I was there for 2.5 years. I don't really know. I figured that out. I actually met the detective that was investigating my parents. I was reporting something different, and my father's name came up, and he was like, oh, excuse me. He's like, why don't I know you? I'm like, I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna have you.
I was like,
okay.
Probably because we just met. Oh, excuse me. And that's when I found out that that was the first case that he worked at when he got as detective in the SVU. They knew where my brother, he knew my brother's names, where they went to school, what extracurricular activities. They had no idea who I was. And I said to him, I was like, do you remember the girl that answered the door? And he's like, yeah, we had no idea who she was. I'm like, well, that was me. And they were like, you were a breath of fresh air. Because like when they knocked on the door and I opened it and the whole like vestibule was filled with cops. So I'm like, yo, jackass, they're about to, or it's like, they're finally here to arrest you. Don't drop the fucking soap. I was so I knew he was getting arrested, but I don't remember why I know. And it was within.
Oh,
that's my kitten that is like bigger than the other cats. Hold on.
yeah. I just had a question at the freaking tip.
But yeah, like I knew he was getting arrested, but I didn't know why. But when I met that detective, that's where I guessed that I was away for like 2.5 years, because he said that's how long they were investigating.
So, did they get in trouble for drugs? Was that what it was?
Embezzlement. Yeah, and both of my parents were supposed to get arrested, but they pulled my mother's warrant while they were on the way to the house. The detective said he was pissed, and he has no idea why. They just got a call from the DA to pull her warrant.
Wow. Yeah, you've definitely had what regions? What she isn't. That's one of the only things that she doesn't really get into is locations. And
huh? Oh, I don't really give locations, but the Northeast and New England area. I'll say that much. I just won't say the exact location.
42% of trafficking in East Tennessee is familiar or
familiar. Yeah, it's so I know the recent statistics that came out is I think it's up over 80% is family members. I mean, it could be something as simple as the mother's a drug addict and just sells off her teenage daughter to pay off her debt, or something more complex like what I went through.
Yeah, you definitely. Everybody should follow Kellie because she's gonna you're probably gonna hear about her on the you'll probably be on like the Today Show or something sometime promoting your book and your story.
Well, I'm not writing a book yet, but I'm working on getting on TED Talks.
That would be awesome. Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, my really good friend, he does the Your World Within podcast. He's huge. I just a little over a little over a month ago, no, probably closer to 2 months, he was on my podcast. That was such a fun episode because it wasn't just about trafficking. Like, I get to the point where I'm just so tired of talking about it.
Oh, but I bet.
That's why it's like when I first started my podcast, I was posting once a week, sometimes twice a week. And now I'm like anywhere between 2 and 30 days I'm posting.
Yeah, I get it. And that's why I knew, like, if we talked about it, like kept talking over Zoom and stuff, that I don't know, it's easier for me to just do impromptu, like on the spot, informal type things, because
No, I texted you and you're like, let's do it in like 2 hours. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, because we were gonna look more into the case, but really it's not about, I mean, it's more about your experience anyways. It's not so much, it's not just about Summer Wells, and warning signs that there might have been or was, I don't know, but it's important for people to hear this way. It's not just the Summer Wells community.
Well, it's like, look at the email that you got saying, I don't know about Panda Eyes. I know exactly what Panda Eyes is, and it's not true. There's so much misinformation out there. I mean, I just got blocked on TikTok today from some guy that cracked the Wayfair code and recorded the whole thing. And I'm like, Jesus, stop. Like, you're hurting real victims. Like, Wayfair is not trafficking children. And he blocks me. I'm like,
no, well, I think the person that emailed me, I don't think they meant it like in a rude way. I'm not saying that.
I'm just saying there's so much misinformation, and a lot of people think it's true, but
everybody is just automatically suspicious of anybody who talks, because so many freaking people like come, lie about. So everybody's suspicious of everybody, but like, I know, I mean, from talking to you for we talked for 6 hours, I think, the first time, and
something like that. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, your life is like a movie.
Not a very good one for me, but yeah.
No, not for you a good one at all. But like, it's
oh my God, I love flat earthers. They are like the most fun people to argue with. I'm like, my favorite thing, I'm like, don't you think if the earth was flat that cats would have knocked everything off the side of the earth?
Probably.
I love messing with vegans too, and no disrespect to people that are vegans, but the ones that do it because they care about animals, why are you eating their food? I have a weird sense of humor.
Yeah, you're pretty funny, actually. That's one thing I learned. Yeah, didn't you talk about doing stand-up comedy?
Everyone tells me to. I mean, other people think I'm more hilarious than I think I am, but yeah.
Do you think that you use comedy do you think it's true that people use comedy as a way to escape the trauma?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's like my sister. We get into our things where we fight, we block each other. She calls CPS on me. I call and try to have her put on psych hold. Like, we're crazy, and we're not biological sisters. We're just the same level of crazy. But it's like, I won't talk to her for like 2 years, and I just call her and I'm like, I don't want to talk about it, but I need you. And then that's it. and it's just like that simple with me and her. We've been friends forever, but yeah, we make jokes about things that people would probably think we're seriously disturbed for thinking it's funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of goes along with, I mean, it's just like Catherine.
Why are you asking where to find my story? You know. Okay, so I'm on TikTok, and it's at Beautiful Mistake 24.
And all our stuff's in the description too.
Yeah. And I don't really use Twitter or Instagram. Instagram, I just kind of put inspirational quotes. But I have Instagram so I can talk to other survivors. But my podcast is the Unbroken Podcast. I'm thinking about going to video for some episodes here on YouTube, but I haven't. I mean, this is for my other podcast. That's a more political one, like my background. But
do you guys not believe that she doesn't make money doing this? I couldn't believe it. If you're going to tell your story, then I mean, you can help people at the same time making a living off of it. You know what I mean? Because with what you went through, I just really feel like you're supposed to help people who have been through similar things. Because you are.
No, I don't have anything
about you is that you were so intelligent for what you went through, because I'm imagining that school was not on the top of their. It wasn't probably. I mean, did they really push school on? What about education? Were they?
Well, we went to a private Catholic school all the way through for kindergarten through 12th grade. It was an optics thing. I always thought my parents were Catholic because we went to church, but I found out the only reason we went to church was to get a discount on the tuition. I found that out when I tried to put my son in Catholic school. But I liked school because nothing bad happened to me there. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like drowned myself in my studies because it was just so different, and it was something I could do. But I'm not smarter than I like to be. And
I can tell that you're highly intelligent.
It's like as close to my natural color as I can get. So I am a bit ditzy, but you know.
Well, I was just surprised. I think that also people would. I think there's this whole like, I don't know if it would be like, people would picture somebody who's been through like the things that you have not being so intelligent because, you know, right? Because it's not usually at the top. You wouldn't think it would be, education would be at the top of the list of things.
Well, and that's like a common misconception, but if you think about it, I mean, nowadays homeschooling is so popular that they just homeschool kids. But back in the like late 80s, early 90s, if the kid didn't go to school, you got in trouble. So yeah, all the kids go to schools, and I did well. I was a 4.5 GPA that I graduated from. I remember chemistry class. I was the only one allowed to do the experiments that made things go boom.
Maybe that was part of the whole facade, you know, the whole Catholic, you know, they probably used it as a facade to make them look good, I guess, in a way.
So I wanted to answer that girl's question. So what happened with my father's arrest is kind of weird. I was told a different story than what actually happened.
But they never got in trouble for what they did to you, though.
No, not to my knowledge. I did know I knew he was getting arrested. I don't know why. It is possible that it was something that I said to somebody at some point. I did have another survivor looked at his charges and said there were some that were similar to someone that was arrested for trafficking that pleaded out, but I don't have proof that that's true or not. But what my father told me was that there was a piece of land that was for sale for $200,000, and his buddy knew someone that wanted to buy it for over $1 million, and he didn't have time to get it approved from the homeowners association that he was president of. So he just took the money, and then the guy left and stole the money and was a con man. I don't think that's true. The detective, I mean, it was pretty crazy. The detective said that there were people sleeping in their basements with their whole families with shotguns because they were terrified of him. And that, what else? That they were too scared to have even plainclothes officers come to their house in unmarked cars. So they created a fake event at the local high school and had everybody there at once and take all of their statements at once. He said it was the worst investigation he had ever done. Very exhausting. But see, my mom, and I can remember her picking me up from school, telling me about this whole jury trial that my father was going through, that the jury was really looking like they were liking my dad. And I can see his court records. He pled guilty on all counts. There was no jury. So, I mean, I really don't know. I know his official charges were there was an aggravated assault charge, intimidating witnesses, forgery, fraud against a government institution, like all sorts of white collar type crimes, except for the assault. And that, from what my father told me, was he pulled a pew-pew on somebody when they were threatening him. I don't know if that's true or not, but it does fit in the state that we lived in. That would have been an aggravated assault charge and an intimidating a witness. So I don't know. I was thinking of FOIAing the police department.
You know what? I was taught. So one thing was really confusing about your story, that it was crazy because you were actually even married during part of the time you were being trafficked, right?
Yeah, me and my ex-husband, we started dating in 2000, and we got married in 2005 and separated in 2007. So at the end, about 8 years we were together.
You're not sure if you think that he knew, right? Because you think he was paying your dad to kind of keep.
I think he knew something. Like, I know that we would borrow like $25 off of my dad, but we always were constantly paying him every paycheck a debt. What that debt was, I don't know. It could have been a real debt. It could have been paying to keep me, it could have been so many things, but we're not on speaking terms, so I can't just ask him. But he was always trying to get me away from my parents. About 5 years after my dad had gotten arrested, all of a sudden our house and our cars and everything started getting vandalized to the point where we moved out of the state. And my ex-husband was trying to get us not to move. And then after we separated, he moved back home, and he kept on trying to get me to move back home with the kids. I took it as he was isolating and abusive, but I'm starting to think that he was just trying, because I was allowed to have friends. I just wasn't. He was always hating on my parents. So I think he knew something. I don't know if he knew exactly what.
Right. Yeah, because some people just don't understand how people can be stuck in something like that for so long. Mm-hmm. But when you grow up in it and it's everything.
Well, I didn't even. So back in, when was it, like 2015, I was really trying to dig into what happened to me. Like in 2011 is when I met my husband, and he was in Afghanistan at the time. I was just supposed to be pen pals with him. That kind of took a different turn. We've been married for 10 years. But when I told him about my past, I told him that my parents raped me and allowed their friends to. I didn't know. That's what I thought it was. And then I was joining a bunch of like domestic violence and sexual assault support groups, and I didn't feel like I fit in. And then I went into a PTSD support group, and I kind of like, I felt like I related more with cult survivors than other people. That's actually how me and my sister met, because we lived an hour apart. So I clung to her because it was just someone close by. And I talked to a cult specialist, and they said it sounded like a cult of one. If it was a cult, like it was just my dad and my family. But then I found a woman's blog, and her daughter answered in an ad for a modeling job and was taken into trafficking. She then went in and answered the same ad and got taken into trafficking to get her daughter out. So I was kind of talking to her, and she kind of explained what trafficking was, and I said to my husband, I wonder if all those times money was exchanged. Because at this point in my life, I had very little memory of anything. It was like I turned 16, and everything before that was just like blank, like just darkness. And it turns out that woman was kidnapped by my father, and her and her daughter were trafficked by my father and one of his friends.
Wow.
I even sent a picture of him to her, and she's like, yep, that's him. He has a very distinct name. It's him, my grandfather, and my brother are the only ones in the United States with that name. So when she said his name, I'm like, ugh. And that's how I found out and had the term trafficking. And it was like, once I figured that out and started working with therapists about it, it's like the memories just kept flooding in, and it's just like everything made sense. Like I had all these jumbled memories that I couldn't really place. So it just kind of helped.
So you said 3 people in your family. It's the only people in the United States that they share a common name or whatever.
Yeah, senior, junior, and the third.
Yeah.
But
my name, I think there's one other person in the whole United States that has my exact name. She lives in Florida. I get her emails for her Hyatt hotel account somehow.
Well, that's why I hated my maiden name, because it's just such a distinct last name that I was the only one with that name. And then I remember when I married my current husband, I didn't change my name when I married my first husband, but my current husband, I went to the Social Security office. They're like, what do you want to do with your maiden name? I'm like, take it out back and beat the shit out of it. I meant you want a hyphen. I'm going to guess no. I'm like, nope, do not want it.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about getting off here. What about you? You could always come back too.
I'd be happy to. I don't care.
I used to
I
say
drank so much coffee. I'm ready to keep going.
I know you could probably keep going and going. I know.
Did you want to do a little Q&A thing first?
If there's anybody does anybody want to come up, I can drop the link and see. I just hope that everybody would be respectful.
It's all right. If they're not respectful, I'll tell them they're assholes.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anybody really wants to come up or not. Hard to hear that your parents did these monstrous things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell like a lot of people, an entire town did not know I was being trafficked. I did not even know that I was being trafficked. And that's why awareness and spreading factual awareness is like so important, because I can't help but wonder if I was 5 years old being trafficked now, I probably would have gotten saved
And
a
they
lot
didn't-
earlier, but
in Catholic schools, do they teach you? They probably didn't have any type of sex education or anything, did they?
oh, we did. We had sex education. I didn't have it until high school.
Yeah.
But mine was like super cool because I went to an all-girl Catholic high school. So it was very geared towards women. And I remember the lady, when she taught us how to put condoms on, we did it on eggplants, not bananas. And I was like, what's up with the eggplant? She's like, because I don't want you to fall for the I'm too big. It was a nun, too. Believe it or not.
Oh,
How would you know, though? Like, have you ever done it? We had a brother that taught theology. I got kicked out of his class because I asked if he had sex. I was like, I know you can't after, but can you do it beforehand? And he's like, that's inappropriate. I was dared to do it, but yeah, no, we had sex ed and thank you, and stuff like that. It was just like I said, it was the words that were important. It was stranger danger, and your parents can give permission. So I took that as, okay, well, my parents are giving permission for these people to do these awful things to me, but they say it's okay because my parents said it's okay.
Yeah, she does have a good sense of humor. She's really hilarious, actually. After she opens up.
Oh God, yeah. My sense of humor is really sick. Well, and my husband, he's an Army infantry vet, so he was a grunt, and like we were walking through a sporting goods store, and I'm like, what are these decoys for? He's like, I don't know. I only ever hunted people. I'm like, okay, can we not say that in the gun section? We watched the movie Smile, and he cracked up the entire time. I'm like, it's a scary movie. He's like, then they shouldn't make it so funny. I'm like, it's not.
I laugh through scary movies too. I don't know why. I think it's so funny. I think I don't know. I mean, I never was into scary movies until well, I'm not really into them even now, really. But I dated one other person since Jim passed, and he was really into scary movies. But anyways, like him and me both would sit there and crack up. Well, I mean, it was like, I don't know why. It was just so funny to me. Like I don't know if it's so fake or what.
I wanted to watch Halloween Kills with my son. Because he's real into Trevor Henderson. He's like a creepypasta guy. He likes Siren Head. He loved the Slender Man movie. Like everyone was like, and he's like, yeah, Slender Man. Like my kid is crazy. So I called my friend. I'm like, I don't care about gore because he doesn't care about gore, but like, is it scary? And he texted me halfway through us watching it, and he's like, you know, how's your kid doing? I'm like, he said it sucks because the jump scares are too predictable. I'm like,
yeah, there's not really any. I mean, it would during that time when we were watching scary movies, like, because I usually don't watch really movies. I don't watch TV really. I watch YouTube if I watch anything. Like none of them. I mean, I'd really have to look to find any that would actually scare me. They're usually just so ridiculous.
Smile had some good jump scares. I really liked it. I liked the storyline.
Haunted House. We went to this, like, it's supposed to be like, I don't know, the famous haunted house, and I don't know, biggest here in Indiana.
Into abandoned asylums that were haunted when I was a kid.
Oh, I about peed my pants. I thought it was. Oh God, it was so.
I loved it.
I had the best workout ever because I laughed so hard. That whole going through all those. I mean, watching a grown man like run from somebody chasing him, and
I'm cool with
think-
haunted houses and haunted hayrides as long as there's no chainsaws involved.
Yeah, that's what bothered him. He has PTSD, but
I'm like,
still,
you know,
it was so hilarious. I wanted to
there's
be
like one of three ways I'm gonna go. Either I'm gonna say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or I'm gonna pet the wrong animal at the wrong time, or I'm gonna be that 1 in a million chance at a haunted hayride where the person forgot to take the sharp parts off of a chainsaw. One of the only three ways I'm going, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of
Okay,
times,
so
that stuff ends up being, yeah.
So to identify a child that's being trafficked, a lot of the cases are very similar to mine where they don't know that they're being trafficked. So just going up and saying like, are you being trafficked? They're not going to say it. And I can guarantee if anyone came up to me as a child and asked if I was okay, I would say yes. And do you know this person? I would say yes, because I did know them. But the signs are going to be like very similar to like child abuse, like bruises, limping, like cases when I was in the mall, I would be crying. And I guess some people would, you know, think I just wasn't allowed to get the toy that I wanted or something like that. Like the mall. So they would drop me off at the Disney store. I don't know if there's some secret meaning to the Disney store. That's just where I remember them dropping me off at. Disney is a really fucked up company, but it's another day. And they would distract me, and then I would go up, and then they would leave, and I would go up to the cashier and say I'm lost. They would announce over the speaker, hey, will the parents of so-and-so come and get her? Then there's a lot of different terms. I use the word babysitter. Some people call them handlers within the ring. They would come and take me like down the back hallways behind the stores to an office, and that's where the sale would happen. And then they would do the same thing and take me to a different store and drop me off there. And then I would go up and say, hey, I'm lost. And then my parents would come and pick me up. And then we'd leave the mall. But as we're walking through the mall, like I would be limping, hair would be kind of messed up. They would throw like an oversized t-shirt or sweatshirt or t-shirt, put like a hat on me to kind of change my appearance a little bit. They never changed my shoes though. And that's true for like if your kid ever goes missing, always give the shoes, because if you think about it, they've got to sit the child down to change their shoes, and they're not going to do that if they're going to change their appearance real quick if they're snatching them out in public. And I'm not saying trafficking, this is just regular kidnapping. But shit, I lost my train of thought. Oh, so yeah, they never changed my shoes, but it's like people just, I mean, at the mall during, and it was the times I remember the mall was during Christmas shopping, and people just aren't paying attention. No one, I mean, no one pays attention.
That's how the traffickers and the customers never meet.
Sometimes right? They do. This is how it's done out in public.
But it's set up where that is so crazy that you have a certain name that you have to say that I'm lost, and then these people that are purchasing,
they would hear it. Yeah, they would hear it.
Come up and
I use a regular name. It's not like I use two different names.
And you would go off with them and then they would try, and you would they would change your look so you could go up there again and act like a different child.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody heard or saw me with my parents the first time, and they saw me with the babysitter, I would look completely different. But another place, like when I was at like taken to the zoo, God, my blanket got all bunched up. Like we would go like to the giraffe exhibit, and I would be sitting there looking at the giraffes, and then my parents would just vanish and the babysitter would come and take me someplace in the zoo. Same thing with amusement parks. I would be in line for a ride and my parents would disappear, and then the babysitter was there, would take me on the ride and then take me to the sale. But that's how out in public it is. I do have I do have 2 brothers, an older and a younger, and I don't know if they were trafficked or not. I was never told anything that led me to believe either way. I don't have contact with them, so it's not like I can just call and ask.
No, I'm just like mind blown by what you're saying about the whole, you know, going to, you said what, the zoo? You could be out at the
zoo, amusement
park.
park.
Would just like go, they would purposely just go get lost somewhere. And then next thing you know, here's this stranger coming around and like, hey, I'm your babysitter. Let's go.
And that's the thing. They weren't a stranger to me. It was somebody that I knew. And they would say, hey, you know.
And then that person would take you to the sale?
Mm-hmm. And then they would take me to another store and then or back to the different ride or whatever. And then my parents would come and get me.
That is so involved. How many, like, I never thought that is so insane how they set that whole thing up with the mall. Like, I'm mind blown. Like,
but it's it's the perfect crime if you think about it.
I know. That's why I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like actually, it's smart, but like, it's scary though that it's it's scary because I could see how it would be easy to get away with something like that.
I mean, you think about it, like the signs of the malls are up here, kids are about down here, so people aren't really paying attention to kids.
Yeah.
Hyena, I cannot join the police. That actually was what I wanted to do. When I got out of high school, I wanted to join the military, become an MP, and then be a detective when I got out. But I have felonies, so they made sure it's very common that they will make sure that their victims get charged with felonies just to destroy their lives. Like, they destroyed my credit, destroyed my life in every way that they possibly could. So, because
it makes you completely dependent. Makes you 100% dependent on you, like where, that's why I was surprised that they got you an education, even though, because you would think that would be a way to better yourself and get away from
I can't say 100% certainty, but I imagine if it was happening now with how popular homeschooling is, they'd probably have homeschooled me. Hyena, I have Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune hypothyroidism, and Graves' disease, which is autoimmune hyperthyroidism. So yeah, I have a lot of skin problems, hair falling out. That's why I keep turning my fan on and off and taking this on and off, because I get hot flashes.
Is that something that usually happens to trauma victims?
Yeah. I also have multiple sclerosis. I have and there's another.
Why is that? Why is that some kind of weird phenomenon?
Elevated levels of cortisol. And constant. So it was, the stress hormone is cortisol. So having constant elevated levels of that throughout my childhood played a part in it.
Yeah.
Constant, so what happens with fight or flight is when your body's in danger, your brain sends a whole bunch of hormones to the rest of your body. So you can either fight or run, or some of them freeze, but this is specific to fight or flight. So constantly being in that state of mind, even though I didn't know that
stuff. What does that have something to do with that adrenochrome?
Adrenochrome is, that whole thing's bullshit.
I know. We talked about that. That's why I was wondering if that's.
I'll get into that after this, but yeah, it's just trauma. It causes a whole bunch of hormones to go through your system, so it just throws your immune system in whack. So, that's what autoimmune is, your body just attacking your random parts of your body. But adrenochrome, so there's truth to it. There is a drug, it's synthetic, but high levels of adrenochrome are thought to be the cause of schizophrenia, which the synthetic drug of adrenochrome is a hallucinogen. Obviously, schizophrenia, hallucinogens. But yeah, they don't torture and drink blood to have the fountain of youth. I don't even know where that came from. The torturing's true. The fact that there's a synthetic drug, that's true. But as for sacrificing and drinking, I mean, there is ritual abuse that they do that, but it's not for that reason.
Yeah, I think they want. I mean, that's scary because scary shit though. The way they say it goes down. I mean, can you imagine? Like, oh my god! But I mean, I'm glad that that's not true because.
There is hyena. There is instances where adrenochrome is used in movies. One very popular one is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And he takes it out and drops it on his tongue and hallucinates. But I have read medical journals because I kind of wanted to look into it. And, you know, I don't like to say, hey, this isn't true without actually knowing that it's not. And I found a couple of medical journals where they were actually testing high levels of adrenochrome was the cause of schizophrenia.
Wow.
I don't know how much. I mean, some people, I don't know how much they charge. Victims typically don't know unless they're adults and work in like a brothel or a nail salon, which is like huge with labor trafficking, or massage parlors.
It changes over time. I mean, like it's been a while.
And my parents did get the money.
But you didn't get any of the money, right? You didn't benefit in any way. Like,
I didn't even, like drugs. It was like when I first went down the rabbit hole, so to speak, about if I had been trafficked. Like I said to my husband, I'm like, do you think there was money exchanged? And that was kind of what opened everything up and how I realized that it was actually trafficking and sex trafficking.
Wow. So at first you didn't even realize that there was, you never saw money actually exchange hands or anything like that.
I was 33 when I found out, and I was 26 when I escaped. But it's like, and it's the same thing like with the Epstein client list that everyone wants. It doesn't exist the way people think. I mean, it's not like he has a piece of paper with like all these people's names on it. I mean, I don't know how he specifically did it, but my father's client list was a notebook he kept in his pocket that had numbers for everybody. And I was also in there because I would owe him money for things. So yeah, that client list that everyone's fighting for, it doesn't exist the way.
And he would keep in his little notebook. He'd keep how much money was owed to him and stuff. And
yeah, and I only know that because I started fighting with him, like that I didn't owe him as much as I did, as he was saying that I did, and he pulled it out. I can show you.
Wow. That's so insane. That is so crazy. I'm trying to remember how it was exactly you got away. I'm trying to remember. You told me the whole story.
I don't get into too many details, but on the 22nd, something happened. Something else happened on the 23rd, and I was gone on the 24th. The thing that happened on the 23rd happened. I was at a domestic violence support group for something unrelated, and the advocate took me into the office when I told her what was going on, and I did the screening to get into the shelter. And they were like, you've got a bed, you have 24 hours to collect it. And I knew, because I had been so educated, that leaving is when you're in the most danger. So I was trying to think how I could get out of the house with my kids. So I talked to a friend of mine, and we came up with the story that I was going to a beach house for the weekend, and that it was his beach house. And he said he would verify it, yada, yada. And I told them that I was bringing the kids. I paid a very huge price for being allowed to go. I was sexually assaulted by both my parents the whole night before, but we just left. I think it was like 6 at night because I wanted to wait until my mother got home so the girls could say goodbye to him or goodbye to her, and then just got in my car and drove away. And I remember I got to the stop sign at the end of our street and I just lost it, like just crying. And I was like, it's finally over. And I thought I was just escaping domestic violence. I had no idea that it was deeper than that. But my daughters were like, Mom, why are you crying? I'm like, because we're never going back. You're never going to see them again. And we got to the shelter. And did you ever watch The Handmaid's Tale?
I'm like blown away by your story about what they. Wow, I can't believe.
Well, it was the scene where she gets away. But I mean, God, it hit so deep. She like stands at the end of this thing. I won't give too much of it away. And when she steps off, like she stops and takes a deep breath, and it's like I did the exact same thing. Like I got up to the door at the shelter and I just took a deep breath and was like, well, no turning back now. And I thought it was over, but I learned quickly after that it wasn't. They're still after me 13 years later, but my daughters were great. They loved that there was like the drinking water fountain thing because they had them at their schools and we had one in there. So they kind of made everything all better. But that night, I think it was the hardest I've slept my entire life because it was like the first time I knew no one was coming in and no monsters were coming in the middle of the night.
Oh my gosh.
But it was just, it's like, it was so simple. And I always say, like, I love the simplicity of my escape. I just got in my car and drove away because my life
Oh my gosh.
was
Sorry.
so much chaos. And my life is chaotic now but my escape was just so simple. And I love that.
Your parents were SAing you up until the time you left? I didn't know that they were actually doing that to you.
Mm-hmm. Throughout my whole life, both of them.
That is so crazy. People don't think of women being like that, but then, hearing your story and then we, with two women, your mother and then just Giselle Maxwell or whatever, makes you think Ghislaine, it's like.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but mine, the women clients were way worse than the men. It was like the men, it was just like getting in, getting done, getting off and calling it a day. But the women were about torture and about psychological damage and psychological abuse. Like when I was with Epstein, Maxwell would sit in the corner and I'd have to keep eye contact with her the entire time. And if I didn't, I was punished. She would have us, it was a bunch of kids. She would have us play this like sick, demented version of hide and go seek, where we would just be running around and hold on. Sorry, I was getting a call. I keep forgetting to unsync my computer. So we would have to play hide and go seek, and then whoever was caught first got punished the worst. And then it went down the line and we were forced to watch. There were times where there would be multiple kids and they would like the women forced us to watch the other kids with their husbands. Like it was all about psychologically damaging us. Like the women were terrible. It's like everyone thinks I'm crazy because like my gynecologist is a male, my dentist is a male, my chiropractor, like all my doctors except my primary care and my endocrinologist, they're all men. I am terrified of women.
Yeah, you're right about something because women are I can see that totally. Like how you said also with your mother with the Munchausen. And I mean, I know a similar, I understand what you're saying for sure. I can see how women is more of the, I don't know, some kind of sick, weird power mind game shit. It's weird. And you're right. That is like, it is almost worse. Like, I don't know if you could say one's worse than the other or whatever, but it's just, it's all bad.
And the other thing is like, I get comments on my TikTok and they're like, I can't believe your mother did that. I'm like, but my father doesn't bother you, just my mother. And that's the thing, they don't expect women to do that. And traffickers use that. You know, I just posted a video and I said, like, imagine if like some guy comes up to you and says, hey, I think you'd be a great model, like come with me to the photo shoot, like your red flags would go up, and rightfully so. But if your friend came up to you and said, hey, I know this guy, he's a good guy, you know, he really takes care of you, he's not scary, you're not going to have the same red flags. And they use that. The recruiters are generally women.
Yeah. Wow. Because you're right. It is, that's one of the first things I said to you. I was like, the women, you know, because I was like, did you have when I think you called them what, client? Or they call them clients? Or what did you say?
I call them clients. Some people call them John, some call them buyers. I call them clients. I don't know. It just makes me feel better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were probably, I don't know if it was, but girl, when you were in it, did you call them, I mean, did you look at them as clients? Well, you wouldn't have known them.
Well, they're my parents' friends.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just so crazy. Not knowing, you know, what, growing up in something like that and just not knowing, like.
And the more prominent people, like the politicians and the judges, like I call them VIP clients. It was such a different atmosphere. Like I would be taken in a town car. I would be dressed up really nice. The parties at their house, we would have like makeup and hair artists that would do our hair and our makeup for us. And I liked going because it was fun getting your hair and makeup done. Like, but it's like, it was just such a different atmosphere. But those kinds of clients, they were very rare compared to the other ones. But it's like, there was something on Twitter and they were talking about a state legislator, and I looked the person up and I'm like, no shit, he's a former client. Wow. I was like, damn. And he's the his district is where I used to live. So I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense about a lot of things. He had up CPS and a whole bunch of stuff. It's just like they're fucking everywhere.
Wow. It's like I'm so mind blown. I don't even know what to say. It's so crazy.
Because I had tried to take my life when I was like 12, 13 years old. And I got punished real bad for that. And I was tied up in the basement and like not tied up, but in constraint, like the things they have like in the psych ward or at the hospitals. And I managed to get out, and I was running up and down the street, like banging on doors, trying to get one of my neighbors to wake up, but no one got up. And my father came and brought me back home. And the next day, oh, sorry, my husband's texting.
Oh, no, you're fine.
The next day, me and my little brother, we used to like sit at the top of the stairs all the time and listen, like when my parents would have parties and stuff. And we heard my parents fighting, and my father, he was like, she's just bringing too much attention. I'm leaving and I'm not coming back until she's gone. And then the next day I was brought to a gas station, in the middle of the night. There was a woman there, and she handled the transaction, and I went with 2 guys in a truck to the house. I met her later in life, like maybe 2 years ago. And she had talked about things that my father had on his car. And God, it was these stupid fucking pinstripes. I still don't get it. They were like this big and went like along the side of the car. But he had me and my brothers and my mom outside to see it. And she brought that up. Like when she got into his car, she went to my aunt's house with him and then went to a brothel. And she was like, he kept on talking about the pinstripes. And I had never talked about that publicly because she talks about that and never mentioned it to her. So it's like, I know that it was her because, I mean, how else would she know that? And she was born, raised, and trafficked in Texas.
Wow. Yeah, I bet
a movie about her story. But it's like, that's just how, that'll tell you how widespread and connected it is. I was up in Northeast New England area, and she was from Texas. Why was she at a sale all the way over there?
Okay, so when you first met her, it was she was, say it again. She was somebody you met while you were being trafficked?
Yeah, she was she was there when they sold me to the other house. My a friend of mine introduced me to her because she was a trafficking survivor and I was struggling with a lot of stuff. So she's like, well, why don't you talk to her? And when I was telling her about that night, she's like, wait, did your dad have gold pinstripes on his car?
Oh my God.
Like, yes. And she's like, oh my God, I was there. And she just described everything like to a T that I remember about
so
that.
Crazy because like that shows you how that's just like how when you saw that person in the bathroom that was being trafficked, that girl, you know, it just shows like how that's how prevalent and like trafficking is and stuff. It's way more common than we think. If you can just wow, I wonder how many times because I've been in those type of bathrooms, like those trucks.
Probably a lot. See, there was a girl that went missing in Idaho or Iowa, Molly Tibbetts. I don't know if you remember that case.
Yes.
And there was a lot of, I was in a group on Facebook and a lot of people were bringing up trafficking. And I was like, it is possible. I was like, she was very close to I-80. That is a huge hub for transporting victims. Any highway that goes east to west, north to south is huge for how they transport them. That's why, like, if you get pulled over on I-80 or I-40, I-10, they're going to search your car. They're going to treat that traffic stop a lot differently than if you get pulled over in a town because, they're either trying to find drugs or people. But I said to one woman, she lived near one of those rest areas. And I told her, I'm like, go grab a book and go sit there for an hour to 2 hours and read your book and notice and see if you see the same person going back and forth to the bathroom. And she messaged me on Facebook. She's like, there's 2 girls here that have been here the entire time. I'm like, call the police. They're being trafficked. But you think about it, like when you stop at a rest area, you go to the bathroom, walk your dog, stretch your legs, you're in and out in 20 minutes. So it is the perfect place to do it because nobody's there long enough to notice that the same people are using the bathroom to clean up, you know?
Yeah.
I know my sister, if she's still in here, she was, there was a couple rest areas that she was trafficked at. It was later in life that she had gotten kidnapped and trafficked. A guy groomed her online. I tried to stop it as much as I could, but it was a whole nightmare. But yeah, she was brought to, and he had a tow truck industry company, so It wasn't weird for him to be at a truck stop.
Wow. Sorry, I'm texting real quick. Yeah, I have never. I have traveled so much and stopped at. Oh man, me and Jim, my ex, we used to drive all the time. We lived in West Virginia for 7 years. We all the time. Both our families lived here in Indiana. We constantly were coming back and forth to Indiana. I mean, so at least a couple times a month, and so we always stopped at truck stops, and it just makes me think, like, how many times in my life, like,
A lot.
and I mean, my dad always had business trips growing up and stuff like that, and so it's wow.
I know my husband crazy because whenever we stop, I stay for like at least 40 minutes. Like where we live now, we moved from Washington State. It was supposed to take 20 hours. It took us 4 days because I just sit at the rest areas and I'm like just looking around, seeing what I can see.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you can pick them out like so easily.
Oh yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there any other last questions, guys? Well, her memory, you didn't, for a while though, you did have problems like with some memories, didn't you? Like,
well, I had a lot of repressed memories, and with the gaslighting and like mind manipulation, I had a lot of false memories too. So
yeah.
I've been in therapy forever, but working on this for the past 13 years. So I'm starting to make sense of all the craziness that's in my head, but there's still like some of the memories are just like a quick flash and it makes absolutely no sense. Like I have one memory where the guy just tells me he's from New York. Don't know who he is. Don't know if it was part of trafficking or what. But it's like some of my memories are just that small. But
Wow.
They come when they're ready. And a lot of times I'm not ready for them to come. But,
Do you have you done the like hypnosis and stuff like that?
I'm too terrified to do hypnosis.
Yeah. I don't know, because I know that they use that to try to get people to deal with these repressed memories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Probably as a way also to deal with DID. I don't know if there is any type of treatment to use that for DID. Do you know?
I don't know about treatment for DID.
Like as far as if hypnosis could be used for it, because
I think it would make it worse from people that I know that have DID because that's kind of how they do some programming. So I don't know. It's not my forte.
Yeah. I don't know. I just randomly thought that. I'm like, I wonder if that, because, I understand how your mind would break off all these. I mean, it makes complete sense to me. I don't see how anybody couldn't deny or can deny DID. I had a really good friend that I haven't seen her for some years, but I've seen her switch personality, and she had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
It freaked me out.
I have a couple of friends with DID, and they're fun. But it's like, yeah, you can tell, like, as soon as they call, I'm like, okay, who is this? Because I know it's not you. Don't be an asshole.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy, Sherry. She said she was trafficked by her first husband for years.
I'm so sorry.
I could totally see that happening, especially in instances where women are dependent on guys, like financially, or if a lot of times women get hooked on drugs, and it's so easy as us women. I know, because I dealt with addiction in my 20s. I mean, I was so easily I saw all the time. I was preyed on by older men all the time when I was using.
Yeah.
But you know,
it was like they taught me at such a young age, if you wanted to get rid of the pain and the fear, just take something. So, I mean, and to get clean, I just hit 12 years this past December. Like, I had to stop blaming them for it, even though it kind of was their fault. But, you know, they taught me, you know, like
yeah,
I said.
that's a tough one with you, like what your situation, because you know, when with addiction, you know, they teach you have to admit that you're an addict, and you have to forget, and or not forget, but yeah, and stuff. So how do you take responsibility for an addiction that really you were forced into? Because it's a control thing. Of course, I mean, I would think drug use would be like the pretty much used in all 100% of trafficking, I would think.
It is. And what's so terrible is, like, if you're intoxicated, whether it's on drugs or alcohol, you can't legally consent to having sex, but you can legally consent to selling yourself for sex. Doesn't make sense. That's one of the laws that I'm trying to get changed, because it's like, if you see an adult survivor, or an adult victim, they have to ask for help. They can't just take them away. So, like, when my sister was taken the last night, and it was like 5 hours, where I was on the phone messaging her on, I want to say instant messenger, but it was Facebook, and on the phone with the cops. And I mean, the cops kicked ass, because I said to her, I'm like, what do you see? Like, just tell me things that you see. And it was like a Burger King, a gas station, and something that looks like a barn. And they're like, oh, I know where she is. She's on blah, blah, blah road in this area. And right when the cops found her, she started just saying things to me that didn't seem weird, like, to say, but I knew that it was something. Like, she mentioned a pharmacy and was like, oh, I didn't know they had these pharmacies in this state. I thought they only had it in that state. And that's how I knew where she was. But when they finally pulled him over, and she had no clothes on from the waist down, when the cops got up, they asked her if she wanted to be with him, and she had to tell them no. If she hadn't said that, they would have let them leave. And it's like, but she was intoxicated. And it's like, so if they're under the influence, and
they consent, right? Supposedly.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is the laws just don't make sense. Like, you can't consent to the sex, but you can consent to the sale of the sex.
Right.
And I still don't know why, when there's sex trafficking busts, why the Johns aren't being charged with rape. They should be. That's what they're doing. But the laws just suck.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because especially in the instances where the women are being trafficked, they're in it unwillingly. That a lot of them, what percentage do you think are unwilling participants in it? Usually, I think it starts, like, the willing participants, usually it starts with a drug addiction, I would think.
Well, not always. Most of the time. But in sex trafficking, 100% are not consenting. Because for it to fit the sex trafficking definition, there has to be coercion, or fraud. So none of them are actually consenting. As for prostitution, ow, that hurt. Most of it like is not consensual, because it's like, can you knock it off?
Your dog is always bothering you.
I know.
She is so beautiful. She or he's so beautiful.
That's a she. Her name's Nymeria. But once you exchange money, you can't withdraw consent. And if you can't withdraw consent, then you did not give consent. So even prostitution isn't consensual. I mean, people think it is. Sex workers think it is. But when you actually look at the laws, it's really not.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Yeah. So how? But see, if they decided, if the thing is, so if the Johns get charged with rape, like they'd have to. Wouldn't they have to prove that the girl was being trafficked?
Yeah, but it's like, when they do stings or whatever, when they find out that, when you hear that they say they rescued victims of trafficking, they're not being arrested. They're not being charged with that. They're being charged with soliciting. And I just don't agree with that. And that's something I'm fighting to change.
Usually they don't do much to the people purchasing, do they? They don't really go after these people purchasing.
And most of the time it's a misdemeanor, and they don't even have to go on the sex offender list. Drop. Go girl.
You're right. Yeah, I don't think they do have to go on sex offender list for something like that. I mean, like, unless they were in public doing something where it was, if it's within a certain distance of a church or something, I think it's. But yeah, the people buying.
In theory, in my theory, if they go harder after the buyers, then maybe it won't happen as often. Like some lonely guy will think twice about calling an escort service.
Yeah. That makes me think more about what you were saying about Epstein and like how he was a buyer and not a trafficker. And you're right.
I mean, every story is Maxwell brought me to him.
Yeah, I mean, she was a willing participant. I mean, even no matter how much.
I mean, she's trying to play fucking victim. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You need to realize, you got to be careful who you date. It's like, shut up. Oh my God, stop.
Yeah, I don't think that she should be able to, just because she's a woman. That's the whole. If we want equal rights as men, then it has to go both ways, for good and bad. It can't just take one little part of this and no, it has to be equal all the way around. So,
well, I know there's a male survivor on TikTok, and hey, no. She's eating my freaking charger. Oh my God.
Oh.
Where, if you break this, I'm gonna be like super mad. Hold on. Nymeria, you are such a pain in the ass. You have toys and a bone in here. Why are you chewing on an electrical cord? I told you, she's not very smart. What was I saying?
I don't know. What was she saying? I started reading a text. I got distracted. I
hate when my mind blanks out like that.
I know.
We're talking about Maxwell, weren't we?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, about Maxwell and how so Epstein was the buyer, because he didn't. I mean, I don't know how that whole situation, how they were.
Nymeria, get down.
How does two weirdos meet like that? And I mean, you would think that people would. Wow, I don't know. I guess it is so much more prevalent than I realize.
And the thing is like Epstein and Maxwell are just like two very small fish in a very big ocean.
Right. He wouldn't have some type of client? Why would he have what list would he have?
Who knows? I mean, they have blackmail videos. Most traffickers will record sales for blackmail. But I mean, there are some people that I see on comments on like Twitter. They're like, we want to see the videos. Why do you want to see a video of a child being raped and tortured? Are you a pedo? And they're like, why would you accuse me of that? I'm like, why would you want to watch that?
Oh, yeah. I could not watch that. I can't. I mean, do they make them watch that stuff in trial and stuff?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to.
I know that I was forced to watch things.
Yeah.
Well, when they took the kids, they told me that they passed away and didn't make it through childbirth, and then they showed me videos of them afterwards. And I don't know if it was really them or not, but they showed videos of them being assaulted and told me it was my kids.
Oh my God, that is so horrible.
God, so many videos of people being unalived. One stuck the worst. I don't know why. But I can just like close my eyes and see all of it. Like, but they do it to torture us. So that way we're afraid of them. Like the first night I got to the house, I did whatever with the first like client, and after all was said and done and I had to clean up the room and everything, they called me out into the kitchen and they held him in a chokehold, and the guy stared at me the whole time with this smile. Like he was, I don't know if he was enjoying that he was unaliving someone or that I was standing there as a like mid-teen, like 14, something like that. 13, I think, watching. But yeah, they would do things to people in front of us to keep us scared and submit, you know.
And he actually killed that person in front of you?
Mm-hmm. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen people be murdered. There was
gosh, wow.
a girl. We were, and I mean, there's a lot more crazy stuff that happened at this mall that I don't remember a lot of it. But we were out back. I know it was the middle of the night because there was a movie theater in the same parking lot, and it closed at 1, and it was closed. But and this trigger warning, all of a sudden a girl just splatted in front of me. My dad did something to her. I don't know what, because like I saw his back and he's like, she's not dead yet. Lay down and watch her until she does. And I just can see myself laying down like this on my side. And I had to stare at her eyes until she died.
Oh my gosh.
That wasn't the only time that I saw stuff like that.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, this is like you've told me so many there's been so many times that I'm like, wow, why do you say that? Like and I know you hear all the time that how strong you are and stuff, but you were forced to be. I mean, you had no other choice.
Yeah. Even though I do hate that saying where it's at, you know, but it's like a lot of people think like it's strong to survive. I think it's stronger to live it, you know, but it's like that's what one of my main messages is like if you were strong enough to survive the abuse, you're strong enough to survive or to escape and do everything. But like I hate when they say they rescue people because they don't. It's the victim does it. Like, yeah, I made the calls for my sister, but she called me. She initiated it. So, you know, so victims have so much strength that they don't even know. And I kind of have to use it today more than I'd like to. But I have my bad days. You know, I just
that's what I said to you. I mean, I can imagine you could probably get through anything now with everything that you've been through.
I cannot see a picture of a bear though. Terrified.
Of a bear?
I'm terrified of bears. It is such an irrational fear too. Hey.
Even if you say you're one of those that, wow, so you have, yeah.
Like, remember those talk shows that would bring people with their fears on and they would run off the stage? That's me.
Really? If somebody would have brought out like a picture of a bear.
Oh, I'll scroll through TikTok and there'll be a bear and I chuck my phone across the room.
Oh, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. But
It is though. But I was friends with a guy that was in Iraq, and I told him about it. And when he came home on his mid-tour leave, I can't remember, we were at a store and they closed the door and there was a picture of a bear on the back of the door and I just dropped to the ground. He was cracking up. He's like, I mean, you've told me about it, but seeing it in person, it's hilarious. I'm like, can you just tell them to open the door again? I don't know why. I didn't live in an area that we had bears walking around.
probably another thing. I mean, you probably have a lot, even though it does seem you have like you have a good memory there. You probably have so much that you don't remember actually.
And it's weird. Like, come on, Nymeria. She's crazy. She'll calm down in like 20 minutes. She's trying to get my coffee. She's addicted. You are an addict. Fuck, what was I saying?
I don't know. I started reading this one. This is like, so I got distracted too.
Yeah, he's my cousin on my mother's side. Get off my desk! What's wrong with you?
Do you think there's any chance he's actually still alive?
Mm-mm. And I do believe that he did it himself. That's just me, just from what I know of him. But, you know, the case ended when he did. And I don't think he wanted... It's like, the day that we found out about it, I remember I messaged one of my friends because everyone was like, oh my God, it's so awesome. He's dead. This is great for the victims. And I'm like, why do the bad guys always get to win? And she's like, I know. She's like, this is devastating. Like, no one's going to get their day in court. They're not going to be able to talk to or to tell him this is what you did. And the only justice that they can get now is to sue his estate. Where do you think he got the money for the estate? From the sex trafficking. So I could have sued his estate, which I would have been forced to sign an NDA, and I would have gotten money from off the backs of other victims. It didn't feel right. Like, I could sue my parents, but I don't know where that money's coming from. They probably have money from me stashed somewhere. So it'd probably be money that I made. Like, I don't want it. It's dirty.
Yeah, if you were gonna make money from, I think you should make money off of your story and with helping people. Because you'll have to make money off of it or you can't. I mean, it's just how life goes. I mean, but
I'm married rich. No.
I can't believe, to be honest, that you don't have a YouTube channel yourself.
I mean, I do. I just don't post videos. Well, when I started, at the time that I started my podcast, I came over from TikTok, and it was like I was getting dressed up every day to do my hair so I looked good in the videos. And I didn't want to have to do it. And it's like now I can just pull out my mic. It's sitting right there and just start recording. And then I started having guests on, which they feel more comfortable, and it was like, I didn't want to make certain guests feel bad. If they see a whole bunch of guests that show their faces and then they don't want to, I didn't want them to feel like weaker, so it's just easier, but I'm thinking of switching over. I mean, like I said, I have another podcast that we stream live on YouTube. So I don't want to make money. That's not why I'm sharing my story. I want to.
Oh, I know. But I'm just saying, because I just think that. Well, I mean, I know it's not about money at all, but you had to go through a lot, and you had to go through a lot, and and there should be some type of, some people should be paying, I feel like, but But at least if you can't get them to pay for what they did to you, I mean,
I love people like
others.
telling me how to deal with bears. I have a crossbow. I don't care. If I see a bear, boom. But I'm never gonna be anywhere near a bear, so but they're like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to fight a bear or anything. She means that she has an irrational fear of them. Like if she actually sees a picture of one, she gets scared, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a normal fear of if being faced.
Oh, and it's like we went to the zoo once, and they had a bear exhibit. They had to call an ambulance out to give me oxygen because I had such a bad panic attack. And like my kids are like, Mom, they're cute. And you have a teddy bear. Yes, that's named after Theodore Roosevelt, one of the presidents. It's a president protecting me, not a bear.
Oh man.
But yeah,
I would be scared if a bear was right in front of me. I mean, I've had them right in front of me, like out.
But it's like when I say like I'm gonna pet the wrong animal, it's gonna be like a lion, a tiger, or a bison. One of those. Like I'm not scared of lions. I mean, I will climb into a lion's den and be like, "What up? Let's chill." But bears, nope. There might be some deep meaning to it. Who knows?
Yeah, probably. Because you hear about that often with like clowns. Like some people have irrational fears of like clowns.
I don't like clowns, but it's because like sometimes the clients would wear masks so I couldn't identify them. So I don't like any masks. Like COVID was like the worst thing to my mental health ever because I can't wear masks because I was gagged a lot and had like hood things put over my head. But I can't stand something breathing on my face. And when you wear a mask, you're breathing on your face. Yeah, but it was hard to see other people in masks too. Like my husband I was like, no joke, I was filling this up with wine when we would go out in public. I was wasted throughout all of COVID.
I could see how that would be really triggering.
Yeah. And it was even worse because I had a medical exemption. And because I mean, she's my second service dog. My first one passed away November of last year. But I know the ADA like the back of my hand because I have to because of the service dogs. And I would tell people I'm medically exempt and they're like, yeah, we don't take that. I'm like, you have to. It's federal law. You're not exempt from federal law. Well, why can't you wear one? Again, you can't ask me that. Nymeria, get off my desk.
You're like me with my cat. I'm always yelling at this cat.
But it was like
right now.
And it's like one time this one lady was giving me so much shit and it triggered me because it was like somebody telling me you don't have a choice, which is triggering because of everything and all the control. So I finally sat down and went into graphic detail about things that happened to me and why I can't wear a mask. And she's like, fine, just go in, but you didn't need to traumatize me. You traumatized me. Like you did it first. I told her, I was like, do not keep barking up this tree because I will traumatize you worse than you're traumatizing me right now.
I don't know how you just have a way of making things like uncomfortable things like funny, but I mean, that's normal. I think that's.
I am not invited to funerals anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see it being offensive, but it's normal, I think, with people to use comedy as a way to make things more comfortable.
Oh, Hyena, you have no idea. Like, it was the end of the world. I wasn't going to go down without drinking wine. And I mean, I know addicts should not drink, but I really don't have a problem with alcohol. I can drink a glass of wine and not touch it for months. But yeah, throughout COVID, like, I remember I went to the chiropractor once and he's like, are you drunk? I'm like, mm-mm. He's like, what's in your cup? I'm like, bottle of wine. You get fit a half a bottle of wine in these things. He's like, stop bringing alcohol to your appointments. I'm like, then I'm going to stop coming. But I would be at oh my God, Walmart is so much more fun after you've had a few glasses of wine. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, back in the day, we used to go through there pretty messed up. I've been in Walmart under several different types of substances. Tripping on acid, probably rolling on ecstasy.
Oh. I hate when she's not working. She's crazy. Stop.
How's she know when she's working?
Well, when I need her, she just picks up off like my instant.
Oh yeah. She fills off your energy. I can see that.
Like, notice how more wild she is now than she was during the storm. It's because she thought I was going to need her.
Oh.
Get a toy. Stop using me as a chew toy. Look, see, toy.
She feeds her dog. Yeah, oh gosh, don't say that. That's what seriously the haters were going around saying that it's a joke around here because the haters were going around saying that I feed my dog chocolate and Diet Coke. Like they were legit telling that, and people were believing it. So that's why.
You dog abuser. Yeah. Drop. No, my other dog, Opie, drop. Jesus Christ, she just did a flip. He would steal like chocolate milkshakes. And then he would look at me all sad because he was shitting everywhere. I'm like, yeah, what'd you expect?
All right, I'm gonna go.
All right, well, thanks for having me on. Let me know. Maybe next time, give me more than 2 hours notice. Just a thought.
It could be. I mean, we could plan ahead, I guess.
No, it's fine.
All right, guys. Like, thank you so much. And thank you.
Just like, the dentures aren't working, so I'm just going to do it without them. You're like, let's do it tonight. And I could hear
you can't tell it all, but I liked your like how you went about it, saying, well, it's actually, good for people to see, like, this is actually the after effects of what you went through as a child, and poor dental care and stuff. So, and that's something that we talked about with Summer.
I had like so many dentists when I was like looking to get work done. They were like, you smoke meth? I'm like, no. And they're like, I mean, look at your teeth. Okay. That doesn't mean I smoke meth. My parents were just more worried about trafficking me than getting me dental care. My bad. I hate dentists, but it was a lot. And
and Summer's teeth were rotting. You could totally see her teeth were rotting. And so a lot of people, kind of wonder, that's been talked about for sure.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean, that's not specific to trafficking. That's, just regular old child abuse too. Denying medical care. And it could be a sign of sexual abuse, physical abuse. Like they just don't want to bring them into anybody that's a mandated reporter.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as
that's what people wonder too about Summer was CPS, because CPS was involved, and were they afraid of getting caught? Like, was he afraid of getting caught for the essay or whatever, or possible? We don't know if he was for sure essaying her, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. It is possible. It's just like I said, like his story is too perfect. He's got it down to a T. No. Like every detail. And that is a huge red flag that he knew something. I definitely think he knew something. I don't know if it was trafficking, but I do strongly believe it was a cult.
Yeah.
Can you stop? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I definitely could see that. Just the religious, I mean, especially how many people that I've talked to from his past that knew him before someone went missing and after, and just the difference and how more religious he got after she went missing. And I didn't think about like why that would be, but now I think about it, it's like, well, obviously it makes sense if you want to believe he wants to believe he's going to be forgiven for whatever happened to Summer. So of course he's going to become more religious.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag too. If he wasn't before, why after? Stop.
Yeah.
Nymeria, please don't make me do something bad on camera. Here, have a pudding cup.
But you'll probably get away with it because people would probably be like, it's Ziggy's fault. It was Ziggy's stream. Look how horrible Ziggy is.
Oh, I love the bad videos about you. I think they're hilarious. I'm like, my gosh, these people they're great. Like it's amazing. I mean, I'm sorry that they're saying those things, but they're hilarious. I'm like, that's the best you got?
Well, it is hilarious when they come with the stuff some of the stuff they say, yes. I agree.
Well, like some people come in my lives and they're like, you're fat. I'm like, no shit. And if I was meant to be skinny, pizza would not be as delicious as it is. Like, is that the best you can do? Is call me fat?
Yeah, that's what and that's how you know that that's when people that's important to pay attention to, which side is using the really low blows, and that should really tell you something. And
one guy that was real. I mean, okay, like it's just like some people think it's funny, some people think I'm really mean, but whatever. They were just leaving all these nasty comments, and I made a response video. This was on my old account. And I was like, listen, dude, I get you have a small dick. I don't need it all over my comment section. So just go away. And everyone's like, how can you say that? I'm like, do you see what this person's saying to me? I'm like, number one, there isn't a troll on this planet that's going to say something worse to me than my parents did. But I love trolls. They're fun. Yeah. I love when they come in my lives on TikTok and try talking smack, and I'm just like, whatever. One person, I was in my friend's live, his name's Sean, and they came in and they were talking about how they had people in their basement. And I was like, yo, I got people in my basement. I was like, but I got like 4 too many. Do you have lotion? Like, I'll trade you for lotion. Like, we were just going back and forth having fun. And we were both joking. And someone commented, like, are we going to talk about the people bartering for, like, people in their basements? Or are we just going to go over that? And my friend's like, oh, just ignore Kelly. She says the most outlandish shit on the planet. It's like, trolls want to cause problems. So if you just... What?
Yeah, I mean, and I used to actually allow it and go back and forth with them and stuff, but until it started where they started actually like coming into my real life and CPS showing up and stuff, it's like, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is not fun. It's not fun when people like don't take it real life. And
I've been doxxed. They released my criminal record like I gave a damn. They released my legal name when I was being trafficked. They released so much information. I've been swatted probably like 6 or 7 times. Like as recently as I think November was the last time I was swatted. They've gone, like they've messaged my kids. And I mean, it's just terrible. And I'm just like, what's the point? Like, you're not going to scare me.
Do you think this people related to your parents, or is it just like...
yeah, if not my parents, but yeah. One person that did it, I actually was able to figure out that she was being directly sent from my parents. And it was funny because she did everything. I want to say it was like summer of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that I think it's been verified. If somebody looks you up, like your name, it'll tell you when. And she was looking up my information since like August of 2020, before I even shared my story on TikTok.
Wow.
And she's still talking about me too. I'm like, someone came in my live like a little while ago, like maybe a couple months ago. And I was like, well, good to know I'm still living rent free in their heads. Anytime you hear me refer to my biggest fans, that's who I'm talking about. It's not actual fans, it's my haters.
Yeah, actually, it's more like, yeah, your actual possibly blood family, right?
She was not family. She just was, I don't know. I don't know how the link was there. I haven't found it yet. I'll find it eventually, but nah, it sucks. You know, it sucks to have haters, but if you make fun of them, it pisses them off even more.
But see, the thing is just like you said, though, look at everything you've been through in your life. Do they really think it's going to bug you to be called a name?
Especially fat. Like, I don't care.
That's why I say to them, too, like, when they say that kind of stuff to me, I'm just like, that stuff does not bug me at all. I've been through way more hurtful things to being called fat. You know, seriously. I mean, you know, I'm not like 20.
Well, I had one live. I didn't talk at all in this TikTok live. I just ate mashed potatoes. I had almost 300 people in there just watching me eat. I'm like, do y'all have like a sick fat fetish? Like, you just want to watch a fat person eat? And then all of a sudden it dropped down to like 7. I'm like, social media is gonna like destroy the world. It really is.
Wow. That's hilarious. All right, I'm gonna get off here for real now.
All right, girl. Well, thanks for having me on.
Good night, everybody.
I don't know how to leave this thing.
Oh, here here we'll just got her camera off. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. It was a good chat. She's really interesting to listen to sometimes because like what she's been through, it's so unreal. But just I've listened to her for hours and hours, and her everything is always matches up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because sometimes it seems so unreal. Like, how is this real? And it was her life. It's her life. You know, I feel like I could write a book about my life, like when I was younger, but man, wow. It's a good way to take your power back, though, about, I think, like, even though it's not about making money or anything, it is about empowering yourself. And instead of people using you in a way to profit, or them to better somehow profit off you instead, you take it from it, you take your power back. So anyways, good night, guys. I'll see you all probably tomorrow.